were when the Golden State Killer was arrested. You're a moderator on the Zodiac Killer subreddit. You're in search of a new challenge. Enter Solve, the hit podcast that puts you at the center of the investigation. Solve is like no other murder mystery podcast. You'll piece together evidence to track down killers hiding in plain sight. Your cases are waiting for you. New episodes of Solve are available now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. One crime, 4 suspects. Can you solve it?
My name is Jamie Loftus, and I'm here to tell you about my new show, Lolita Podcast. Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov is one of the most controversial works of all time, and our culture has done its protagonist a huge disservice over the years. I've spent the last few months getting to the bottom of how America turned this abused young girl into a sex symbol, and what that says about us. New episodes drop weekly on Mondays. Listen to Lolita Podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Thanks for listening to the Hurt Podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for the Hurt at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Hurt.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Here we go on a Tuesday. What a glorious day it is. No normal Tuesday live in Los Angeles. This is The Hurt, wherever you may be and however you may be listening. Fox Sports Radio, iHeartRadio, and FS1 1 hour from now, and it will look much different. My top 10 Hurt hierarchy. Just frothing at releasing that today. Joy Taylor is joining me. Such a great night. Cigars, sushi.
Yeah, you were living your best life last night.
Wife's out of town. It's like
and you got to be petty with Steelers fans.
Well, you know what? I'll be honest. A lot of you don't think I have feelings. And they've hurt my feelings. They've been very mean to me. And it's very sad. And I think, listen, I'm going to consider accepting apologies. I'm not saying I will, but I will consider accepting apologies. So let's start our show with this. I do a Hurt hierarchy every week, and Kansas City's the best team in the league. Every week, though, I look at Pittsburgh and I'm like, out of respect for Tomlin, the Rooney family, just they're such a formidable, great business. But great businesses like Sears and J.C. Penney, they erode over time. And the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't just lose last night. They're now forcing on a regular basis Big Ben to throw over 50 times, not good. The injuries are piling up, not good. They don't even attempt to run the football, not good. And they struggle to put away average teams, not good. Last night they finally lost. And there are certain things that I look at, and I just see other things. And I'll give you an example. Remember the movie Invincible, Mark Wahlberg, the bartender? It's a true story. He's a bartender, blue-collar guy, loses his wife, and he tries out for the Philadelphia Eagles. A tryout. He's just a regular dude, and he makes the team for a couple years. But when I watched the movie Invincible, it's a fun sports movie, Greg Kinnear, Mark Wahlberg, what I really see is, it's just Rocky with football. It's a tough Philadelphia guy, not making it, has a big dream, the bartender, Rocky, Sylvester Stallone, and they make it in Philadelphia. I can't watch Invincible without seeing Rocky. It's Rocky with a football. And I'm watching the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you know what they are? They're the Patriots last year. Patriots got off to this 8-0 start. We were like, wow! And all of a sudden, the games got closer, and they were asking more of Brady, and the results weren't good. Big Ben's had a passer rating last 3 games in the 80s, and they were asking more of Brady, and there was a couple of losses, and all of a sudden you look up, and here's what Pittsburgh is. Early in the year, Ben was 103 passer rating, throwing 35, 36 times a game. 7 yards a pass, 22 touchdowns, 4 picks. Weeks 11 through 13, they're the Patriots. I can't unsee it. And then all of a sudden you looked at the Patriots, and they weren't getting blown out at the end, and Pittsburgh won't get blown out. They were losing close games to Houston. They lost a close game to Kansas City. They lost a close game to Miami. And then they got one and done in the playoffs by Tennessee. They are the Patriots last year. This is exactly what New England was. We paid them so much respect because of the brand and the name and Big Ben and Brady and the coach. They're just not dynamic. Look at them. They can't run. They don't want to make Big Ben throw 45, 55 times. That's what they have to do. They're not doing what they want to do. They're doing what they have to do. I mean, just injuries piling up. Think about this. Mike Tomlin eviscerated the Steelers a week ago. Just called them out. Said the word suck. We suck. What did he do that for? To mobilize the forces so the fellas are like, okay, coach is upset. Focus in. No, they were worse the following week. Because this is what they are. They're not a great football team. They're a good football team. 1 week from now, they face Buffalo. They're going to lose, and when they do, they'll no longer be the top seed. Similar last year to New England. Lost that last game to Miami, and they lost the bye. Similar when Gronk left, New England really struggled in the pass game despite Brady. And since Le'Veon Bell has left the Steelers, do you know what they are in rushing? 31st one year, 29th the next year, and 29th the following year. They're the same team, invincible and rocky with a football. This is the Patriots last year. It's the same thing. We gave them so much credit. Then you look back at the 8-0 Patriots and you're like, what were the impressive wins? And you look back at the Steelers and they had 1 or 2, but you're like, it's a bunch of stuff over the Jags and Cowboys and what am I supposed to be that big win over the Bengals? Last year, Patriots crushed the Jets and Giants. They were both awful. The Bengals this year, not good. Cowboys aren't good. And I'm sorry, but this is what they are. We paid them so much respect for the 8-0 New England start and the 11-0 Pittsburgh start. Watch the games. There's no there. Mike Tomlin after.
We just got to make routine plays routinely. And I say that often, but there's a lot of truth to it. Now, I'm just worried about us fluidly moving the football, whether it's run or pass. We move it how we choose to move it. The way that we chose to move it tonight wasn't fluid enough for us to have victory.
So let's talk about a team the Steelers face next, Buffalo. At Buffalo, Sunday Night Football. Bills are going to win and probably handily. Josh Allen played about as well as he has ever played in the NFL, but this is cool. Is that, we always sort of understand that a college quarterback goes to the NFL, he won't be quite as dominant. The defense is better, the coaching is better. You don't get any Troy State or Panera Breads, Two exceptions, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. They are way better against better players and better defenses and better coordinators. Mahomes and Josh Allen are way better pros than they were at college. And if you go back to the 2018 draft class, let's look at the success of those quarterbacks. It is literally linear. Lamar Jackson's the MVP. He inherited the best coach. Josh Allen got the next best coach, Sean McDermott, and he's now going to make the playoffs again. Baker Mayfield had bad early coaches, appears to have a good one now, and now he's finally having success. Sam Darnold started with Todd Bowles, now it's Adam Gase. He's gotten worse as the coaching's gotten worse. And Josh Rosen had no shot. He had Steve Wilkes, who's a coordinator, not a head coach. It literally goes in line to coaching. In the NBA, LeBron, Shaq, Kobe, MJ, Magic, Bird, they can run through coaches. In baseball, Clayton Kershaw in his prime's going to win you 20 games. It doesn't matter who's filling out the lineup card. And in the NFL, once a decade, you get an Elway or an Andrew Luck, and perhaps it's Trevor Lawrence. They can transcend coaching. But for every other player, every other quarterback in this next draft class, all I care about now, because y'all have talent, is where you land. It doesn't matter if it's Justin Fields at Ohio State, or Trey Lance at North Dakota, Mac Jones at Alabama, Kyle Trask at Florida, Trey Lance. It doesn't matter. Zach Wilson at BYU. Trevor Lawrence is Luck and Elway. It doesn't, they'll transcend it. Where do you land? Who's your coach? I mean, Josh Allen, and from Scouts I Trust, and Lamar Jackson from Scouts I Trust, multiple GM scouts. My guys were all like, both of those, it could get ugly. But they went to John Harbaugh and Sean McDermott, and Harbaugh's got Greg Roman as a coordinator, and Sean McDermott has Brian Daboll as a coordinator. I mean, you're watching Josh Allen last night. He wasn't that good against high school players. He wasn't that good against, what conference is Wyoming in? He was literally taking Robert Saleh, who you guys all think is a great coordinator, I don't know, tore him apart. They couldn't stop him. They toyed with him. And And so, for all these years, we always look at these college quarterbacks that come to the NFL, and their arm and their size. Go look at Josh Allen's last 3 years in the NFL. For our radio audience, I apologize. I'm not going to break this down. Completion percentage, passer rating, passing touchdowns, passing yards per game. Look at those 30% leaps every year. He didn't get better. His coaching is better. Justin Fields could be a bust. Bad head coach. I mean, literally, Baker Mayfield looked like a bust. Gets a coach, you're like, oh, you can win a playoff game with him. Darnold looked dynamic early. Gase, it's gotten worse. Can you get a 4th-round pick for Sam Darnold today? So, wow. I mean, that was kind of like, that was Mahomes-like last night. Arm angles, deep ball, rolling out. That is Mahomes, Josh Allen are significantly better. And what has Patrick Mahomes gotten? Oh, Andy Reid. What a shock. Good GM, Andy Reid. Nice offensive line, good ownership, top GM. That was quite a performance last night, though. That was like jaw-dropping performance. Good for Buffalo, good for Josh Allen. Coming up next, anti-social or social media, whatever you call it. It used to be, for most of my life, is that very few people had a voice. I mean, your local newspaper would have a letter to the editor, and they'd allow like 4 on Saturday. But basically, the media talked, a politician talked, a big important person talked, but the public didn't really have any influence or say. And then social media, the Snapchat, the Instagram, the Twitter, the Parler, whatever it is. But in order to maintain sanity when everybody gets an opinion, because let's be honest, a lot of people probably shouldn't just talk. At least we shouldn't hear it. To maintain sanity in this world now where everybody gets an opinion, 3 years old to 103. To maintain sanity, you just have to tune certain people out. On Twitter, they call it muting. They don't know you tuned them out. They yell and scream at the sky, but you can't see their comments. LeBron James, as great as he is, needs to learn this. That's coming up. Herd Hierarchy, top of next hour.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
Hey guys, it's Jake Brennan, host of Disgraceland. I want to tell you about a new podcast that I think you're going to love. It's called About a Girl. On my shows, I've told you a lot about the darkest side of rock and roll legends like Jim Morrison, Bob Marley, and Elvis Presley. Well, it's about time someone sheds a little light on the softer side, specifically the feminine side. On the new podcast, About a Girl, host Eleanor Wells talks about the women who loved, supported, and challenged Elvis, Bob, and Jim, David Bowie, Freddie Mercury, and Paul McCartney, women like Angie Bowie, Pam Corson, Rita Marley, and Priscilla Presley. In each episode, Eleanor will tell the secret history of one of these influential women who helped chart the course of music history. The characters, they might be familiar here, but the perspectives are completely new. About a Girl comes to you from Double Elvis in partnership with iHeartRadio and is executive produced by me, Jake Brennan. Listen to About a Girl on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
My name is Lowell Berlanti, and I created the podcast Prodigy to find the answer to a very complicated question. Can genius be created? I asked academics, researchers, scientists, and the prodigies themselves to gain a better understanding of intelligence, skill acquisition, and expert performance. So disregard all simple explanations, because complex questions require complex answers. Listen to Prodigy every Thursday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Coming in 2021, Discovery Plus. Coming soon, a streaming service. Stuff on it like the Food Network, HGTV, and all new exclusive originals. So, as I said before the break, is, sometimes in this world where everybody gets an opinion, you have to mute certain people. They just lose the right to be heard. They don't lose the right to have an opinion, but they lose the right to be heard. I've said this about people who claim COVID was a hoax to humiliate Trump. Okay, he's leaving, the new guy's coming in, and now the cases are still surging. You have a right to say that, and I have a right to mute you, and I can't be taken seriously. So, LeBron, for some reason, still worries a lot about what Kyrie Irving says. It really bothers him. So Kyrie Irving said this not long ago about Kevin Durant. Here's Kyrie Irving.
One thing I've always been comfortable with is, I felt like I was the best option on every team I played for, down the stretch. This is the first time in my career where I could look down and be like, that can make that shot too. and he'll probably do it a lot easier.
Okay, so that's cool. He's saying basically Durant is the best closer he's ever worked with, and he always thought he was the best closer. Now LeBron did not like this comment. LeBron's reaction.
Like damn. Once I got the whole transcript, I was like, damn. I wasn't like, oh, you tripping, I'm hitting game-winning shots my whole life. I was not like that. I was like, damn, because, I played with Kyrie for 3 seasons, and we was able to win a championship. That's the craziest thing. We were still able to win a championship, and we could never align, but I only cared about his well-being, both on and off the floor, and it kind of hurt me a little bit.
LeBron. Kyrie Irving is gifted. Really, really talented. But I'm going to tell you a series of things he has said over the last couple of years. The earth is flat. Steaks don't come from anything natural. Christmas isn't a holiday. There's not one real picture of the earth. And anybody, Kevin, could coach us and we could win. Okay. Yesterday I saw a story where a former Israel space security chief said there was a galactic federation, an agreement between aliens and governments, and in fact, under the surface of Mars, there was a big space where American astronauts and alien representatives hung out. I imagine they played bridge or maybe backgammon. Okay, we're not going to listen to you anymore. That's not what's happening. Astronauts under the surface of Mars with alien representatives, and the governments are all part of what he called a galactic federation. We have signed a contract, well, at least they have pens and paper in the alien world, between governments and aliens to work together and do experiments around Earth. Listen, Kyrie's great, but you get to a point with certain people where they're just great, they're talented, but you gotta mute them. And LeBron needs to mute Kyrie. Just he says stuff, maybe it's to get a reaction. Maybe he's just doing it to be funny. Maybe he's got a great sense of humor and I don't get it. But, you can't listen to every opinion. LeBron's been a great teammate. Kyrie, for the record, was nearly a bust in Cleveland before LeBron got there. Couldn't get along with teammates, couldn't get along with coaches, and could not stay healthy. LeBron, you're above this. Way above this. Joy with the news.
No. Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Sounds like a Marvel movie. Like
mean,
Guardians of the Galaxy or something.
They're saying it's in the center of Mars. Not just aliens, but alien representatives.
Of course.
And American astronauts. Okay.
I believe him. I would actually, I'm weird like that. I would love to interview people like that.
Oh, so would I. I'd put him on the show tomorrow as a guest.
Love to do that. So, rumors are swirling regarding Jim Harbaugh's job status at Michigan, and it seems as if he has some options. According to writer John Bacon, Harbaugh received a new contract offer from the Wolverines on Monday.
He did.
As well as interest from as many as 5 NFL teams.
Now, John Bacon's a legitimate reporter. He's been around for a long time, so if John Bacon says that it's real. So first of all, Michigan should offer him a contract. Come on, it's COVID. Like a lot of people, like James Franklin suddenly can't coach.
Yeah.
Let's give me a break on this. Some of these programs, Lincoln Riley's great. Oklahoma started like 0-2. So I'm okay with that. But I think, you know what this tells me, Joy? Harbaugh wants to stay at Michigan. This stuff comes out to say, hey, Michigan, remember when Nick Saban lost to Auburn years ago, and suddenly there were Nick Saban's going to Texas rumors? And then 2 weeks later, Nick signed a massive contract. That told you Nick wanted to stay at Alabama. But if you're going to mess with me...
Yeah, I got some leverage.
And so what Jim's saying is, okay, I'll make contact with a couple NFL teams.
See, to me, and look, like maybe he's happier in college than he was in the NFL.
I think he is.
Because it is a different lifestyle altogether.
Smaller town, you control all the players.
Yeah, it depends on what you want.
That's right.
Like, but it is a different lifestyle.
Yeah.
And some might be worse for others. Some people don't like recruiting.
Right.
You know, it's some people want more control. They don't. Other coaches don't mind that. They just want to coach. So it's really depending on what you want. If you're in a situation like Jim Harbaugh, his offer is for a lower base salary and buyout, but it includes large incentives. So now he has the option to accept, negotiate, or decline. Michigan is 2-4 this season, and they face number 4 Ohio State this weekend at noon Eastern on Fox. I mean, his NFL record 49-22-1. College record 107-49. I mean, he is a good coach.
Yes.
I think
having a bad year.
An awful year.
Yep.
But I'm with you when it comes to Michigan. I think, and I have a lot of friends that went to Michigan.
So do I.
Maybe just lower the expectations for your program.
Little.
Just a tiny bit. Just a little bit. Listen, I don't really subscribe to that, but I feel like if you aren't of that championship, like you're Bama, you should expect to win a championship every year. Michigan, you should expect to be competitive every year.
9.5. But listen, and I'm not saying this to be obnoxious. Ohio State historically is a better football program than Michigan. It's like a win and a half better. It's okay. I'm not taking shots at anybody. It's almost like Oklahoma historically is a better program than Texas. I'd rather live in Austin. I like so much about the Longhorns. I love the Longhorns brand. But Oklahoma, over the course of time, has won like titles with like 4 different coaches. Like, it's okay to say this stuff. Auburn's good. Alabama historically is way better. You can still be a top 12 program, but your rival is better.
It's just hard to continuously have these conversations about Harbaugh. Like he's a great coach.
Yes.
It's a right. Just give it another year, a couple years, you'll be all right.
Listen, we're watching 3 or 4 football teams in the NFL, 3 or 4 minimum, with guys that are just over their skis. Harbaugh got to a Super Bowl. You don't think he's going to have an option? You don't think he can coach?
Oh yeah, he could absolutely go back to the NFL.
And win. Of course he could.
I can think of several teams right now that would be very happy to take Harbaugh
One
off
in the AFC East that jumps out.
So James Harden failed to report to the Rockets' first workout on Sunday, as well as a scheduled individual workout that evening. When he was asked about Harden's absence, new head coach Stephen Silas said he's unaware when Harden may return. He said, as far as the timetable, there is no timetable as far as I know, and it's a setback. You want your best player to be here. I have to be honest, this is a setback not having one of the best players in the NBA. So not sounding too happy about it. The NBA hasn't announced any disciplinary action due to Harden's violations of the COVID-19 protocols, which require players to quarantine except for essential activities and team-sanctioned workouts, and forbid players from attending parties and clubs, which, yes, in certain places of the country, those things are still available. Not here in LA. You cannot even go to a restaurant, but some places in the country is a little different. This is disappointing, but I can't. I guess it's kind of redundant to say it's disappointing, but not surprising. I'm not surprised.
Yeah, no, I'm not either. This is his personality. It's been his personality. He's kind of a quirky guy.
I don't know what, and this has kind of always been my problem with the Rockets in general. Like, what do you expect to happen? We talk about this all the time. Once you know who someone is, many years ago I submitted to this. I felt like it was very wise of me. Because I used to get very frustrated because I'm a very competitive, driven person.
Yes. And
I could see great qualities in friends or family, and I'm like, you should do this. And, like, I'd be encouraged, and like I would drain myself trying to get other people to do that. And then I was like, it's not who they are. And they're happy not doing that. I wouldn't be happy if I had that particular talent and I wasn't taking advantage of it. But they're happy with that.
I had the same epiphany with my daughter in a car one time. The only time I've made her cry. I said, I went to a basketball game and she just didn't, she's a good little player at the time, but didn't care, played terrible, she didn't care. And I said, if you don't care about something, then I'm not going to care. It's got to start with you. And I said, you just don't like basketball enough. I'm good with that. But I'm not driving all over the state following you if you don't care. And to your point, if James Harden doesn't show you he's a leader, he's shown no inclination to be a leader, then stop pretending he is.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean he's not
a great player.
Fantastic player.
That's right.
A Hall of Famer.
But he's not a leader.
It's not what he is.
He's showing you. He's almost telling you without subtlety, I scored. That's what I do. Let me do that. That's what I want to do. I want to be strip club, score, fun guy.
And I feel like not just basketball, so many sports organizations do this with their stars, and they just keep trying to convince themselves that it's going to change. Like, it's the same as a relationship. Like, they're not changing. People change for themselves, not for you.
John Wall for years told you he wasn't really committed. I mean, everybody in the league knew Bradley Beal was less talented, but way more committed to basketball. John Wall was more talented, not committed. They stayed with him for like 8 years. It's like they both told you first year in the league. Practice habits, hard work, going to bed early, getting up early, showing up to practice. They told you who they were for years.
You are what you habitually do.
Thank you.
Finally, this story is amazing. So Mike Tyson's return to the boxing ring
Amazing.
has generated more than $80 million in pay-per-view revenue based on the latest figures. So he fought Roy Jones Jr. on November 28th, sold more than 1.6 million pay-per-view buys, priced at $49.49 a piece, according to Tyson's Legend-Only League. So that ranks among the top 10 combat sporting events in pay-per-view ranks at 1.6 million.
Okay, so this is where, like, UFC diehard and boxing diehard, this is where they don't get it. You know, you UFC guy, like, I know, I've seen every fight. Oh, that's a you problem. Boxing guy wants to lecture you. Right now in boxing, Mike Tyson is the most interesting fighter. No question. And in UFC, Conor McGregor, if you give him a legitimate fight,
and he has one coming up.
First or second most interesting fighter. Like, I don't care, nothing against the rest of UFC, but if Conor fights a legitimate fighter, I, as a consumer, I'm not a diehard. I watch UFC cards all the time. Dana's done a great job. But when Conor fights, and I know he's into it, and it's a real fight, I am, with my buddies, buying the card. And Tyson, I sat there knowing they had a no knockout rule. I still bought the card.
Of course you are. Of course you're going to do that, because selling the fight is part of that sport. As like I said yesterday, if you're not a purist, fights are about the story. So even this ridiculous Mayweather-Paul situation that's coming up is going to sell, and this shows you why. It's the names. Like, if you can put superstars on these cards, people are going to watch, because they just, if for nothing else, like, not to see great boxing. You're not gonna see the best version of the sweet science, but it's gonna be a story. It's gonna be interesting, and I've said this for years. This is the best time ever to be in sports, because there's nothing left on live television except for politics and sports.
That's it.
That's it. So even if it's Mayweather fighting a YouTuber, people are going to watch. Mike Tyson at age 54 fighting Roy Jones Jr., people are clearly going to watch. The numbers speak for themselves.
Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
So, when you watch Washington last night, Washington in itself isn't fascinating, but when you watch the Giants beat Seattle and Washington beat Pittsburgh, those were the two biggest upsets of the weekend. I think it's fair to say this is not a reach that the Giants have found their coach. And I think Washington getting better every week has found theirs. That's a big deal in the NFL. Gotta have the coach right. We just talked about quarterbacks. You can be the most talented guy in the world. Harbaugh and Sean McDermott guarantee Lamar and Josh Allen success. So we watched this weekend, the Giants upset Seattle, and last night Washington beat Pittsburgh. Probably in both cases don't have the talent. So the Giants in the NFC East, the Giants and Washington's football team, they have their coach. Also, the Giants for the next several years have a talented quarterback, Daniel Jones, they won't have to pay. Washington will draft a quarterback and plan very early, and they won't pay him for 4 to 5 years. Meanwhile, the Dallas Cowboys, who keep losing and will lose tonight, I think rather close to Baltimore, will have a top 5 pick and have shown no inclination to draft a quarterback. So I want to put up, right now the New York Giants have no contracts over $17 million. None. Washington has 1. Next year, here is what Dallas is paying just their offensive stars. Zeke will make $14 million, Amari Cooper $22 million, Dak $37, Zach Martin $17, Tyron Smith $14, Lyle Collins $12 million. I don't want to get into DeMarcus Lawrence, defensive end, at $25 million. I know, I threw up in my mouth. That's gross. That is what they're paying. By the way, Dak isn't even one contract over $20 million. He's almost 2 $20 million contracts. Giants don't have any. Washington's got 1 Alex Smith, barely over 20. The Dallas Cowboys shouldn't consider drafting a quarterback. They have to do one of 2 things. Either draft a young quarterback and not pay him, because you couldn't sell Zeke, Amari, and DeMarcus Lawrence contracts today. Tyron Smith, you couldn't sell them. You either got to draft a quarterback or, and I don't have a problem with this option either, you have got to trade down in the draft and get multiple second, third picks. Because a top 5 pick this year for a quarterback, you can get a lot. And Jerry's got an ego. And Jerry Jones, he loves having a top 5, 10 pick, right? Because everybody talks Cowboy, oh my Cowboy pick, unbelievable. Jerry, disappear out of the first round. Go to the third. Go to the second. Go to the fourth. You start looking at, because in your division right now, who's in big trouble? Carson Wentz in Philadelphia, that contract, and they don't know if they have the right coach. Dallas, we don't know if they have the right coach, $37 million for a quarterback. But I'm watching the Giants in Washington over the last 24, 48 hours. They both have the coach, and they're going to pay their quarterback nothing. And we got a formula in this league, and that's the formula. The Giants in Washington, get the coach, don't pay your quarterback for 3 or 4 years. I mean, Dallas has got, I saw a story today, they're going to tag Prescott. And that's all guaranteed money now. That's all guaranteed money, $37 million. That's almost 2 $20 million contracts. But what was it Jerry Jones was talking about this morning? This morning in Dallas, he was asked about their struggles, how they differ from the Washington football team in New York.
What do you say to that fan, Jerry, as to explaining the differences between where you guys are and where those other teams are with some similar issues?
Oh, I think that's a fair approach to look at it, because have they incurred setbacks, injury? They made those, obviously made changes when they came in to their various organizations. I don't know how you could line them up and make a better, fairer comparison.
Like he's just telling you, like you look, Washington and New York. It's not just this weekend. They got the formula. They're ready to roll. Paying the quarterback nothing. Got the right coach. I don't know how the Dallas Cowboys have a top 5 pick and either don't take a quarterback or trade down to get picks. They are on the precipice of being, and this is hard to do when you're the Dallas Cowboys, being irrelevant for like a long, long time. Logan Ryan of the Giants stops by next. Joy and I couldn't figure out, why was he on the market forever? Remember before the season we're like, why won't anybody get Logan Ryan? He's a great slot corner, great guy, great locker room guy. He's now the leader of the Giants defense, which shut down Russell Wilson. He's next.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
My name is Jamie Loftus, host of shows like My Year in Mensa and The Bechtelcast. I'm here to tell you about my new show, Lolita Podcast. Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov is one of the most controversial works in American history. The story and its main character have been adapted, misinterpreted, and twisted over the years by Hollywood, by fashion, by fans of the book, and by the author himself. Lolita has gone from the tragic story of an abused 13-year-old girl to a cultural narrative that frames her as the seductress and to blame. So how did this all happen? It's a messy story. This is a story about a girl named Dolores, and I think she's gotten lost over the years. I'll be speaking with literary scholars, with experts on abuse, and with the actors who have played the part of Lolita and more. So let's get to the bottom of it, for her. New episodes drop weekly on Mondays. Listen to Lolita Podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
You know exactly where you were when the Golden State Killer was arrested. You still pay for cable to get Lifetime. You're a moderator on the Zodiac Killer subreddit. You're basically a seasoned detective, and you're in search of a new challenge. Enter Solve, the hit podcast that puts you at the center of the investigation. Each week on Solve, you will untangle a case that has pushed detectives to their limits. Solve is like no other murder mystery podcast. You'll piece together evidence from interrogations, crime scenes, and witness testimony to track down killers hiding in plain sight. Your cases are waiting for you. New episodes of Solve are available now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. One crime, 4 suspects. Can you solve it?
Well, when Logan Ryan was playing for the Patriots, he was the classic New England Patriot. Smart, in the right place, you don't beat him over the top. Football team was always better, great in the locker room, goes to Tennessee, and then at some point doesn't work and he's on the market. We kept saying, why isn't anybody going after Logan Ryan? Everybody needs good people in the backfield. It's a passing league. And the Giants, Dave Gettleman, who we've been critical of before, steps up. He's now playing safety. He's the leader of this young, aggressive defense. He is now joining us live. I was excited this morning when I saw Logan Ryan was going to be in our show, and it brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. So when you were not picked up on the market and you're sitting at home with your family, and you're sitting to yourself thinking, I can still play. People know who I am. I'm a grown-up. I'm a leader. Was there any moment you're thinking, the hell's going wrong with this league? What is going on? I mean, because we couldn't believe it. Could you believe it?
No, I couldn't believe it at times. I definitely couldn't, but I think it had to do with the weird year we live in, the changes, the COVID, what the draft's going to look like, what free agency is going to look like. And I felt like, a lot of players may have panicked a little bit during free agency and jumped to sign deals.
Yep.
And one thing about me is I know through my hard work and my preparation, what I bring to the field and what I bring to my teammates, that I make teams better, I make places better, and I'm going to do my best to be a great player and a great teammate. And I knew that had some worth, so I wanted to wait and also find a good fit for me and not just rush based on what the world was looking like. And I had the opportunity and the ability to wait a little bit and pick the right spot, and I felt like the Giants were the right spot for me with Pat Graham and Joe Judge, coaches I've played in the system for that believed in me since I was a rookie.
That's interesting because people forget that alliance. You knew Joe Judge way better than us and the media did. When you went, now a lot of people, I was one of them, I'm like, I've seen him on the sidelines, on New England, how do I know he can coach? Did you think, because the Giants get off to an 0-5 start, when did you know that, you know what, the players are buying in? We're going to turn this thing around. Was there a moment, a game, an epiphany, a play that you knew it's a bad start, but we're going to get this thing right?
Yeah, I think that an exact moment I can't say, but I felt like everything's a learning opportunity. And when we were taking those losses, and some of them were close games, they were really close. I knew if I could make a play or two in the end, we could win those games. And I put that on myself. But the locker room never folded. The leadership never tanked on the year. We never said, man, this ain't it. It's a first-year coach. Too many excuses. There was no excuse made. We just kept going back to work. And I wanted to win just to get those young guys the experience of what winning is like and what your hard work deserves you to get. So that's what I wanted it bad. And I think when we kind of went, obviously we started off 0-4. I think those next 4 games, we started turning around. We played the Rams really well.
Yep.
And I felt like that was a moment in L.A. when we went out there and played the Rams really well. It was like, hold on, McVay's a really good coach. Goff's a really good quarterback. They have an experienced system. And they're running their plays really well at a high level. And we were able to really confuse them and make it really hard on them.
Yep.
We just got to figure out a way to win games in the end, situationally. And we weren't playing good third down defense early in the year. But if we could play the situations better, the formula to win, good on third down, good in the red area, run the ball, win the running game, penalties, discipline, things like that, make teams beat you, don't beat yourself. If we can start getting better in those areas, we can play with anybody and everybody. And I felt like when we came back from LA, the results might not have turned right away, but we started to show that we could play with everybody, and then we started to win those games. We started to make those plays in the end. And we started to give these really good quarterbacks a tough time.
It's so you beat Seattle, and I said yesterday on the show, I said it certainly is an upset because you had a backup quarterback, but we're going to look at that game and go, like a month from now, and go, that wasn't that big of an upset. Like, they're really even. Flying back home, when you walked off the field in Seattle with Colt McCoy, your backup, and you had won the flight home, like, I got to imagine, like, what right now for the New York Giants, do you feel like the confidence of the roster after that win walking off the field went from here to there?
I think so. I think it's some of the younger players for sure to have that big time win. I think it has. But, one thing about it is it wasn't a fluke game where we ran 7 trick plays and had to do, this and that and a reverse pass to squeak one out at the end. I think we knew Seattle. I've known them from playing in the Super Bowl. They're a team that relies on energy. They come at you in waves. They come at you with intimidation. We weren't afraid of DK Metcalf. We weren't afraid of Russ. We knew that we had to be a team that's together, that's tough, and that had to sustain and endure their waves. And when you're a boxer and you're in a fight, you always want to punch first. And that's what Seattle does. They punch first. They come at you fast. Jamal Adams is talking. He makes splashy plays. And they punch first. But nothing is scarier than someone who gets punched and stands there and continues to keep going forward. And that was us. We took that early blow, down 3-0 or whatever it may be, the block punt, down 5-0 at half, and we kept coming back. We kept pressing forward. We told them we had a strong chin, and we endured their waves, and I think we out-executed them in the end. And that's definitely a good feat against a quarterback as experienced and a coach as experienced as the Seahawks and Russell Wilson. But it just gave us proof that we are who we think we are. When we play well, we execute well, and we work hard. And I think it goes to our hard work and our togetherness as a team.
You know, you're going to be as good, though, as Daniel Jones. You know this league. I mean, as good as New England was, Brady lubricates all of it. He's the engine. Daniel Jones has cut way back on turnovers. I didn't know. I watched him play at Duke. I thought, I don't know, is that guy a six pick? What is it about Daniel Jones? Is there something you see that you think he could be special? Is there a trait or a quality, Logan, you see?
Yeah, I mean, if you see the guy in person, he throws one of the prettier balls in the league. He's bigger than you think. He's obviously faster than we all thought. I didn't know he'd be running away from DBs like he has been. He's extremely smart, and he's a hard worker. He's blue collar. He's going to be coached. They're coaching him hard week in and week out. He plays in the New York media, replacing Eli Manning. I mean, he couldn't get a tougher place to play pressure-wise. And he continues to show up, put the team first, take the blame, and keep working. And I just really think his ability to stay humble and keep working, it comes to him naturally. And he's just a worker. And I think he's going to improve on everything in his game. But he has the skill set. It's there. It's the size, the arm, the intelligence, the athleticism, the leadership. It's just the performances, the execution on game day. I think they're becoming better and better. And before you become a great quarterback, you can't be one that's detrimental to your team with turnovers. And I think he's become better with that and give us the opportunity to win. And look, I know you say you only go as far as your quarterback, but last year in Tennessee, I love Ryan Tannehill to death, and I love my Titans to death. But we were finding different ways to win with passing the ball for 80 yards. We were still beating teams because we're moving the ball when we need to. In the second half, Seattle had 9 in the box, including Jamal Adams, and we rushed for 160 yards. So we moved the ball when we needed to. We got first downs when we needed to, and we got stops when you need to. And when this weather gets colder, it comes down to this rushing game. It comes down to the red area. It comes down to third down. And it comes down to special teams. And I feel like those are things that we're going to continue to work on as our strengths.
You should consider going into broadcasting when you're done. You'll have a lot of options. You really should. You can break it down very succinctly and very smartly. Couldn't be happier for you. Good people that work hard get opportunities. Yours are just beginning, Logan. And I love having you on our show. You didn't have to do it today, and I appreciate it.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you guys for the opportunity.
All right, thanks, buddy. Logan Ryan, New York Giants, now playing safety. That's a dude, like every locker room needs Logan Ryan. Smart dude. He's like I told Shannon Sharp off the air this morning. He's like Russell Wilson on defense. Walks in, he's an adult, elevates everybody. Not always. Russell Wilson still never had an MVP vote. Like certain guys just walk in. Chauncey Billups in the NBA made every locker room better. Every single one better. Westbrook's way more talented. He can sometimes puncture momentum in a locker room. Chauncey Billups made every locker room better. I tell my kids this all the time. You can be a lubricator or an agitator. Walk into rooms and lubricate. No reason to agitate. Even if you're talented, you just wear people out. Logan Ryan's like, put him in my locker room. We'll figure out. A little older, maybe can't put him at corner. Move him back to safety. Put him in there. Boom. It's good. Herd hierarchy, top of next hour. I still can't get over a Mike Tyson fight. Made 80, was it 80 or 90 million?
80 million. And there's still numbers coming in, so that like
are people still buying it?
No, but like they're still counting. So, stop the count.
Like, listen, I tell Gottlieb this. Don't worry about being right. Just be interesting. Mike Tyson's interesting. He doesn't have a jab as much. Larry Holmes was great at one point. He was dull. He was never interesting. Mike Tyson is interesting. Eating breakfast.
Yep.
I would pay-per-view to watch him eat scrambled eggs. Mike Tyson is interesting. RecTech is what people are talking about. The grill made by grillers for grillers. Check it out. The Master Chef indoors. No matter the weather, you're the chef. Turn it on by your phone. RecTech.
I'm Debbie Brown, the host of the Dropping Gems podcast, a podcast about the depth and potential of personal growth. No one's journey is the same as the next, but the magic of being human shows up in the things we have in common. Our capacity for love, pain, joy, sadness, togetherness, and solitude are things that make us perfectly imperfect. And I want to explore with you how we can live our best through it all. The new season of Dropping Gems is available now. Listen to Dropping Gems on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Hey everybody, it's AJ McLean from the Backstreet Boys with my girl Cheryl Burke and my boy Renee Elizondo on iHeartRadio's Pretty Messed Up. This show talks about love, life, drugs, sex, rock and roll, you name it, and a little bit of dancing as well.
I've never been this vulnerable and open, especially on Dancing with the Stars. You guys see an edited version of me. We get pretty deep and we just talk about everything. Yeah. So just make sure you listen to Pretty Messed Up on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey everybody, it's AJ McLean from the Backstreet Boys with my girl Cheryl Burke and my boy Renee Elizondo on iHeartRadio's Pretty Messed Up. This show talks about love, life, drugs, sex, rock and roll, you name it, and a little bit of dancing as well.
I've never been this vulnerable and open, especially on Dancing with the Stars. You guys see an edited version of me. We get pretty deep and we just talk about everything. Yeah. So just make sure you listen to Pretty Messed Up on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You're going to come into a new season of joy and fulfillment like you've never seen.
Hi, I'm Joel Osteen. I have a daily podcast where I talk about overcoming obstacles, accomplishing dreams, and becoming all you were created to be. You may have had some disappointments in the past, but this is a new day. Keep feeding your hopes, feeding your dreams. Use your energy to feed your destiny. Listen to the Joel Osteen Daily Podcast on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for listening to the Herd Podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for the Herd at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Herd.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Hour 2. It is just wonderful to have you in Los Angeles. That's where we're at. Can't go outside and eat at the restaurant, but we're still in Los Angeles. It's the Herd, wherever you may be, however you may be listening. Fox Sports Radio, iHeartRadio, FS1. I always think it's fascinating. The restaurants are open, so a bunch of people are jammed into a small kitchen making food. But Joy and we couldn't sit 12 feet apart outdoors. That would be dangerous.
I don't know. I wouldn't want to be the one making these decisions.
I would. I'd like to make all of them.
Feels like maybe they could have made better decisions.
If you wonder why people in Los Angeles are now rolling their eyes, when you have, public officials making rules, getting caught on vacations, not wearing masks, and then demanding you can't eat outside.
I think it's safe to say 2020 has been it's not great for a lot of politicians.
It's been a bad year to be a public official.
Wear a mask. We'll get through this.
All right, we will. All right, it's the Herd hierarchy. It's the 10 best teams in the NFL. I may have a mistake at 3 and 4. I've been thinking about it all morning, but I'm going to go with it. I'll explain it. Here we go.
Herd hierarchy.
Time is now. Let's go.
The top 10 NFL teams according to Colin. Number 10.
Seattle. I know they lost, but, I still think they're better over 5 games than the Giants. It was their first home loss of the year. The defense has 21 sacks since week 9, most in the league. DK Metcalf leads the NFL in receiving yards. They had a clunker because their offensive line for 4 quarters got pushed all over the field by the Giants. Listen, the Raiders beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead. Do we think they're better? Washington beat the Steelers last night. Do we think they're better? Not over time. I think Seattle is better than the Giants over time, but the Giants deserve credit for the win, and Seattle should be dropped to just number 10.
Number 9.
Dolphins. Seattle beat them earlier. I don't know if they beat them today. Dolphins have won 7 of 8. Their defense is number 2 in the league in scoring. Mark Schlereth said it this weekend. Their defense is confusing people. Xavier Howard leads the NFL with 8 picks. Their draft picks are hitting it out of the park. Tua does not turn the ball over. They're a little like a really, really, really young New Orleans Saints when Drew Brees came in. They're building stuff. They're not there yet, but they got this quarterback who's accurate, smart, and never turns the ball over. Love love their head coach, Dolphins at 9.
Number 8.
Steelers. Folks, this is what they are. I may be being kind. 5+ drop passes again last night. 55 yards rushing since week 8, worst in the league. Big Ben, 45 or more pass attempts in the last month, most in the league. 3 of their 4 remaining games, they faced the Bills, the Colts, the Browns, winning records. This team isn't doing a ton right, and their injuries are piling up on their defense. I've got them at 8, and I'm being kind.
Number 7.
Cleveland would beat them today. Cleveland's got the number 1 rushing offense. Baker Mayfield's not turning it over, and they're not asking him to throw a ton. Here's what's interesting. Odell Beckham hurt opening drive week 7. Baker Mayfield, since then, we always thought Baker and Odell were not perfect. Since then, 11 touchdowns, 1 pick, passer rating 112 for Baker Mayfield. We kept saying it. Odell's great, and Baker's got talent. They're a bad fit. Baker was forcing the ball to Odell Beckham. Since he's been hurt, Baker's a different quarterback. Now, I don't love their defense. I don't. But I think offensively right now, they have the ability to eat the clock, and Baker's not turning it over. I got him at 7.
Number 6.
But I think they'd lose head-to-head with Tampa Bay. Bucks are coming off a bye. They're struggling right now. But again, they finished with 4 games against teams 500 or worse. Brady is great off a bye. I think teams that are talented off a bye, especially without preseason, they'll right the ship. They have the number 1 rushing defense. They take the ball away. Tampa at 6.
Number 5.
But I think the Rams would beat them. Listen, the Rams have won 3 of 4. They don't match up with San Francisco. We've seen it in the last 2. They don't match up with them. But they're 33-0 when they lead at halftime, and they usually do with McVay. Their pass defense, the best secondary in the league, hands down. They're great corners, great at safety. This is a big one. They've allowed the fewest big plays in the NFL this year. Those are 20-plus yard plays. So you got to grind it out against them. It's very Belichickian. They're not giving you any free stuff. Jared Goff, when comfortable, they lead, they win, case closed.
Number 4.
I think I may have them 1 spot too low. I'm going to put Buffalo here. I think I've got them too low. I turned this in this morning. I think I have them too low. First of all, they're a Hail Mary pass away from being 6-0 in their last 6 games. They should have won 6 straight. A Hail Mary pass, they outplayed Arizona, or they'd be 6-0. They're the only offense with 20-plus first downs in every game. Their defense leads the NFL in takeaways in the 4th quarter. They're exceptionally well coached. Buffalo at 4.
Number 3.
But out of respect, I'm going to put Green Bay at 3. Aaron Rodgers is on fire. Devontae Adams, I think this morning's the best receiver in the league. Aaron Jones is unbelievable. I still think they miss Blake Martinez at linebacker. But what can I say? They're playing much better in the second half of games now, so situationally they're making adjustments after half. I didn't think they were very good at that last year. They remain pretty healthy. It's a good pass-blocking offensive line. Listen, it's pretty simple to figure it out. When they lead and teams have to throw against them to catch up, they're great. If they fall behind and you can run the football and eat the clock, they're not a great football team. But people aren't taking leads on them. Aaron's happy, content, and comfortable. I have him at 3.
Number 2.
Saints, to me, have the best roster thanks to Mickey Loomis and Jeff Ireland in the front office. I think they're the best roster in the NFL. They don't have an over-the-top component passing. But, I mean, what other team in the NFL? 9 straight wins, 5-1 on the road, haven't had the easiest schedule, have had turmoil at quarterback. Last 2 years, they're 8-0 in those games. Their defense has allowed 16 or fewer points in 5 straight games. First month of the year, I did not love this defense. They have tightened it up. That's what well-coached teams do. And I do think roster top to bottom, it's the best in the NFL.
Number 1.
All right, we know who it is. All right, Kansas City. They don't give the ball. You know, here's the thing with them, is they only have 8 giveaways all year. So it's just frightening. It's like if the Warriors never had turnovers. So they're the most explosive offense, and oh yeah, they never turn it over. That's a nightmare combination. A lot of times you get the flashy offense, little run and gun. Mahomes doesn't throw picks. They don't fumble. So right now I feel like the only team that really matches up with them, I think New Orleans matches up with them really well, and I think I may have Buffalo a little low. The reason I put Buffalo at 4, I didn't want to be your typical sportscaster. A team plays great on Monday night, and I come out here hair on fire. Buffalo's gonna win every game. I was like, nah, don't be that guy.
You don't think it's hair on fire to have the Browns above the Steelers?
I think the Browns are playing great. They do a lot well.
I think the Browns are playing great,
and
too.
they're healthy. Their offensive line rate's higher.
So if the Steelers and Browns play today, you think the Browns will beat the Steelers?
Absolutely. Pittsburgh can't run the ball.
Oh, Colin. Well,
When do they play?
The good news is I can go to Pittsburgh anytime I want, so I can vouch for you.
Let me tell you something. People don't believe what I'm about to say. They love me in Cleveland. I'm going to be a grand marshal of a parade sometime soon.
They don't love me in Cleveland, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know about that one. But I'm not. They play week 17, so we'll find out. I don't think it's outrageous though. The 3 and 4 spots. I think you have the Packers above the Bills appropriately.
All right. So James Harden. Here's a story on James Harden. Peter King's around the corner. So James Harden is hitting strip clubs around the country. He won't report. They got a new players, new GM, new head coach, and so they could really use him right now in Houston. He's not available. In the NBA, I think sometimes owners, GMs, and coaches get paralyzed by talent, and talent matters. I'm not saying it does. But I'll give you an example in my industry. There's a reason Jim Nance and Mike Tirico and Joe Buck and Al Michaels, yes, they're talented, but networks trust them to do these huge games, to not go off on crazy guy tangents. Part of what makes them the big 4 is they're grown-ups. They can handle, you lose the picture. Somebody says something inappropriate. You got to ad-lib through a long rain delay or something, or an electrical outage. That's what makes Nance and Buck and Tirico and Michaels, that's what makes them the big 4. They're grown-ups. I always think about this in the NBA. Everybody just pays talent. But to me, if I ran an NBA team, I would pay talent with personality. There are guys I want to be connected to. Damian Lillard, Steph, LeBron, Clay, Chris Paul, Giannis. They have max personalities. But we give max contracts to Westbrook and Harden and John Wall and Kyrie Irving and Joel Embiid. And I don't think they have max personalities. If you're going to give somebody $35 million a year or make them the lead play-by-play guy at a network, your talent's important. I'm not saying that. And it's the lead dog. But in the NBA, if you're going to get a max contract, do you have a max personality? Can you handle it? Can I trust you? Are you focused? Can you play every night? Are you all in emotionally? Are you coachable? I mean, I like Ben Simmons. Bruh, could you spend an off season learning how to, shoot? Come on. And like right now, James Harden, he's telling you, I'm a 2. I score like a 1, but I'm a 2. I'm not really a leader. I'm all good with that. He's telling you what he is. But I always think it's interesting. In the end, in basketball, it's like, the talent. Listen, Klay Thompson is talented, but he's not nearly as talented as perhaps a Joel Embiid or a John Wall or a Westbrook. But Klay Thompson has a max personality. I will connect to that. And I some of these teams, they get burned because they're like, talent, max money. And I'm like, no. All you have to do in this league is find one great player. Tim Duncan, Shaq, LeBron, and I'm not saying it's easy. But once you get that max contract, max personality guy, then you don't necessarily have to have a bunch of max contract talent. What you have to have is guys that work with your Duncan, or your LeBron, or your AD, or your Dame, or your Steph, or your Clay. I would just struggle to give Harden, open the bank up for him. Not that he's a bad guy, but it's like, this stuff has to be considered if I'm going to pay a 35 large. Like, do you have the personality that I'm willing to connect to? Because once I give you that money, you control the franchise. You control it. And there's guys in this league, I'd give Damian Lillard anything. It doesn't matter, not just that he wants to stay in Portland, but his personality, he's a grinder. LeBron's still a grinder. Steph and Clay and Chris Paul and Giannis, by the way. Max personality can handle it. No. Harden to me is the world's best 2. It's okay. But I'd pay him like a 2. And if the market says you're wrong, all right, bye-bye. But this is the nonsense that Houston's dealing with here.
Want more Herd? The Herd streams 24 hours a day, 7 days a week within the iHeartRadio app. Search Herd to listen live or on demand whenever you like.
Hey guys, this is Jake Brennan, host of Disgraceland. I want to tell you about a new podcast that I think you're going to love. It's called About a Girl. On my shows, I've told you a lot about the darkest side of rock and roll legends like Jim Morrison, Bob Marley, and Elvis Presley. Well, it's about time someone sheds a little light on the softer side, specifically the feminine side. On the new podcast, About a Girl, host Eleanor Wells talks about the women who loved, supported, and challenged Elvis, Bob, and Jim, David Bowie, Freddie Mercury, and Paul McCartney, women like Angie Bowie, Pam Corson, Rita Marley, and Priscilla Presley. In each episode, Eleanor will tell the secret history of one of these influential women who helped chart the course of music history. The characters, they might be familiar here, but the perspectives are completely new. About a Girl comes to you from Double Elvis in partnership with iHeartRadio and is executive produced by me, Jake Brennan. Listen to About a Girl on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Contact World is a technology and media company dedicated to improving public health because we're fed up with the way our country has ignored public health for so long. Those days are over, and our podcast is our opportunity to dive into hot topics that are relevant to your life, from contact tracing to vaccines to social and racial justice. We may not have all the answers, but you deserve to know what goes on in your neighborhood and the decisions that affect you and your family's health. I'm Justin Beck. Join me and my co-hosts Catherine and Deep D as we seek truth in health. Contact World's podcast is the voice of the people and your opportunity to improve public health and health equity. So subscribe to Contact World and tell your friends, because we all deserve the right information, not misinformation. Visit contact.world to learn more. Contact World the podcast premieres December 8th. Listen to Contact World the podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Tonight, it's a special edition of the NFL on Fox as Zeke and the Cowboys take on the Ravens. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific, also available on NFL Network and streaming on Prime Video.
I am so excited. I told you last night it was cigars, sushi, cocktails, and the NFL with a friend. I had so much fun last night. And a little Instagram.
Really good night.
And tonight, I'll probably be by myself, but Ravens, Cowboys tonight. I'm so excited.
On a Tuesday night.
It's really.
And then you get one night off.
And then I get.
And then you get Thursday night football, Patriots, Rams.
It's the Rams, Patriots. My Lord. Let's go to Peter King, Football Morning in America, NBCSports.com. Joins us as always on a Tuesday. All right, here's what was interesting last night. So Mike Tomlin, in a very smart veteran coaching move, did a real smart thing last week. He really called his team out. And he knew they were not playing well, and you usually do that. A veteran coach will do that, Peter, to get an inspired effort the next week. But instead, Pittsburgh was awful again. And my theory is, because they really have become a less dynamic team. The injuries, they can't run the football. What you saw last night's not a mirage. This is kind of what they are. Agree or disagree?
I totally agree. I mean, the lack of a running game is stunning. The fact that Roethlisberger's gone 2 weeks in a row throwing it more than 50 times is just unheard of in Pittsburgh annals. It just is ridiculous. And now, look, they go to Buffalo this week. I don't mean to be an alarmist after one loss, but who do you like in that game?
Buffalo.
If you watch television last night for 6 hours, okay, you don't like the Pittsburgh Steelers over Buffalo, at least right at this moment. I'm not saying, I don't know who I'd pick in this game, but man, Buffalo looked really good. Pittsburgh didn't. The only thing that's going to keep Pittsburgh in every game they play is that defense.
Yeah. So I said this yesterday, the Giants beating the Seahawks is an upset, but we may look back and go, it's not as big of an upset as we think. And I just had Logan Ryan on, and it's really interesting. To be a sports talk show host, I have to be willing to admit I'm wrong. And I thought Gettleman in his first year was completely over his skis.
But he won the OBJ trade. Leonard Williams was a fantastic pickup. Joe Judge was a great hire. Logan Ryan was smart. Daniel Jones can play. I watched them Sunday, Peter, and if they can beat Seattle with Colt McCoy, I don't know. I mean, when was the moment for you with New York this year? You thought, you know what? It's a real football team. This is not a bad team. This is a good team with a bad record, and there is a difference.
It was the Monday night game against Tampa. They were the better team on the field that night, but because of two bad turnovers from Daniel Jones, it just didn't show.
Right.
That was the night where I said, you know, look, if let's just say, for the sake of argument, the Giants go on to win the NFC East, and you look at their wild card game. Could you imagine if Tampa Bay is the 5 seed? Now, who knows who will be the 5 seed? But imagine it's Tampa, and they've got to come to the Meadowlands again, and it's Tom Brady against the New York Football Giants again. You know, 2007, 2011, 2020. And, you know, so I think that would be a real... Hey, look, the Giants in January, I think, and Washington maybe too, because they both have really good defenses, they're going to be a tough out for somebody.
Yeah. You know, I led my show yesterday, and I've never done this before. On a Monday with football, I led my show with a 45-0 game. I led it with Belichick, and I said 45-0 is what Alabama does to a Sun Belt Conference team. The Chiefs would not beat the Jets 45-0 with a backup quarterback. What Belichick did to the entire Charger staff was an undressing. And I looked at it and I thought, they are 2 plays away, Peter. A fumble late against Buffalo and a goal line stand by the Seahawks from being 8-4. And I said, outside of maybe Sean Payton and Andy Reid, Belichick, this is the best coaching job, honestly, I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how they're doing it. They had 8 opt-outs. I guess my question to you is, what do they do at quarterback? I mean, because to me, if they can win with this level of quarterback, is Cam come back? I mean, what do you make of what they're doing with what they have on the field?
I think it just it's a great example of how important coaching is in this environment, and not only how important coaching is, but how important depth of roster is. Okay, and look, you knew that it was going to be a struggle without Brady, you know, at his peak, or peak Brady, and no one had any idea what to expect out of Cam Newton. The fact is, it's stunning, first of all, that you can score 45 points when your quarterback throws for 69 yards and your leading receiver has 3 catches for 1 yard. It's the roster, Colin. You know, I wrote this in my column this week. Bill Belichick does not discriminate on his team. Everybody's going to play some special team, okay? And Devin McCourty was in exactly the right place at the right time. 2 seconds left in the first half to pick up the blocked field goal and to run whatever he ran, 45, 50 yards with it for a touchdown. That is what a Bill Belichick team does. Now, you know, look, Colin, I bet you can find in about the last 18 years someone in December saying, oh, this is Belichick's best coaching job.
Yeah.
You know, and look, the guy's a great coach. He always has been a great coach. He's never going to lose a game in an embarrassing way and not learn a tremendous amount from it. He's always done that. And I think he has done that this year because, look, the San Francisco beat down in Foxborough, embarrassing.
Yes.
Just totally embarrassing.
Yeah.
And you know, so they learn from things like that, and you got to hand it to Belichick. But I will just say one thing. In non-defense of Bill Belichick, a lot of these problems are of his own doing because he has not replenished the roster with top-level offensive talent at all.
Fair.
And so you say, okay, they score 45 points and beat the Chargers. I'm not complaining. I'm not indicting anything. But I am saying that offense is really not good.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
And that has to get fixed. And every year, Belichick scotch tapes it together a little bit, but never fixes it.
Yeah. Finally, I think we're overreacting a tad to the Philadelphia situation. So I wrote this down this morning. So Philadelphia has won 9 division titles in 20 years. And they've won 2 division titles in 5 years. This is a well-run organization. Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning were awful for 3 years in a row. And the Giants didn't overreact until like year 4. And I'm looking at the Eagles and I'm like, this is a gold standard organization that won a division last year, and right now they stink. But can we take a deep breath on this stuff outside of New England?
Agreed.
Everybody goes sideways. It's like, I look at Philadelphia and it's man overboard. I'm like, can we just, it's an obstacle. Eli had bad years. Get over it. Like, I think are we overreacting to the Wentz mess right now?
I don't know that we're overreacting to Wentz. Wentz shouldn't be playing right now. They ought to be playing Jalen Hurtz and seeing what they have going into next year. Okay, but I agree with you. I'm not firing Doug Peterson. You know, they need to just take their medicine and fix it in the offseason. And basically say to Carson Wentz, you're our guy. But you're our guy, you're our guy, you're our guy, exclamation point. But you're playing lousy right now. The offensive line might be the worst in football, except the center. And we have to play the more mobile guy. The guy you were like, by the way, in 2017. That part of Carson Wentz's game has gone out the window. And I think one of the reasons it has is that he realizes that's how he's gotten hurt. You know, being such a mobile guy and outside the pocket. But I don't know, Colin. I agree totally with you that you don't do the best thing for your organization when you panic in a bad year.
Yeah.
Last year the Eagles still made the playoffs.
Yep.
You know, and they didn't panic in a bad year because they said we are injured incredibly all over our roster. And we're not going to overreact this year either. We're going to fix the offensive line. We're going to try to scotch tape Carson Wentz back together. And in 2021, we're coming back with the same cast, and we're going to win and be confident in it and go ahead. And then in 2021, if Carson Wentz stinks again, then you got a decision to make. But I would not throw him overboard after this year at all.
Peter, good talking to you again. Thank you on a Tuesday, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, Colin.
By the way, I'll throw this out just to defend, to Peter's point and my point, where people are overreacting. So they won the division last year. They won the division 9 times in 20 years, 2 or 3 times in 5 years. Here's Philadelphia's losses this year, and most of them one possession. What do these teams have in common? Rams, Steelers, Ravens, Giants, Browns, Seahawks, Packers. They're all playoff teams. So they're losing close football games to playoff teams. They're no loss to the Jags, no loss to the Texans. Look at their losses. Take the opener out against Washington. They've lost to the Rams, close to the Steelers, close to the Ravens, close to the Giants, close to the Browns, close to the Seahawks, and this weekend, they got beat by a better team. Like, it's they're losing mostly close to all playoff teams since mid-September. It's like I can't. And I looked this morning. This is Philadelphia. 2 division titles in 5 years, 3 in 10, 5 in 15, and 9 in 20. It's a good organization, having a crappy year. They won it last year. Joy with the news.
Turn on the news. This is the Herd Line News.
And they won it last year in kind of crazy fashion.
Remarkable.
They had so many injuries.
And still won it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Like, Carson Wentz's play is unacceptable.
Yeah, you can play Jalen Hurtz. I'm not losing any sleep on that, but this whole thing, fire the coach, do this. Like, settle down.
That's not what championship organizations
That's
do.
right. They have bad years.
So the Washington football team took down a championship organization team, undefeated Steelers last night, 24-17.
Dominating.
I don't know if it was dominating, but they did win. Chase Young was not surprised by the turnout. Following the game, Young said the team just felt it, and he thinks the Steelers were exposed in their loss last week to the Ravens. Browns defensive end Myles Garrett took to Twitter to hint that the AFC North crown might be within reach. He tweeted the Steelers might have opened the door.
They did.
I personally love this.
I'm here for it.
Because there's nothing better than the Browns talking trash and taking an L. So I think say more Browns. With congrats. You're 9-3, and they're going to play in Week 17, which will be a tremendous game with a lot on the line.
Cleveland, remember who has always supported you through thick and thin? Uncle Colin. I have always had your back in all harsh instances.
Yeah, I think everyone is, look, the Steelers have some significant injuries. They are not running the ball. They had way too many drops last night. Looked very undisciplined.
By the way,
they've got to get it together.
They are a drop machine.
What's interesting about the Steelers, though, is not the Browns, because, come on. It's not the Browns. It's the Chiefs. So, because you're trying to get that bye. Right? So the rest of the Steelers' schedule, obviously they have the Bills, which is going to be a very tough game.
Yeah.
Then they have the Bengals. The Colts, which is not a gimme game at all. And then, of course, the Browns in Week 17.
That's a loss.
The Chiefs have the Dolphins, which is interesting.
Win.
But I think still win. The Saints, which is...
Go either way.
Falcons, which you have to be careful with them.
Stay away from that one, yeah.
And then the Chargers in the last week, which I think by that point the Chargers will be
done.
Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting next couple weeks for the Chiefs and the Steelers. Who's going to get that bye? Because I think the Steelers have the tougher schedule. But the Browns have won 4 straight, including the win over the Titans. So they are 9-3, second place in the AFC North.
Never doubt this organization in Cleveland.
They have the Ravens. They're at the Giants, at the Jets, and the Steelers. So they don't necessarily have the easiest schedule in their final 4 games either. Speaking of the Ravens, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens face the Cowboys tonight at 7 Eastern on Fox.
Can't wait. I think I'll take the Cowboys plus the point.
Well, according to Fox Bet, Lamar and the Ravens are 7.5-point favorites against the Cowboys.
I bet this one. It was a little better number. I like it better at 8, but go on.
Well, Lamar will be returning to the field tonight after being forced to sit out last Wednesday's game against the Steelers. It was the first game he's been out in his 3-year career. According to teammates, missing that huge rivalry game really bothered him.
Yeah.
And the Ravens have lost 3 straight, and they pretty much need to win at least 4 of their 5 final games to make the playoffs because they currently sit at 3rd in the AFC North.
They're going to win the game tonight. They match up well with Dallas. The question is, can Dallas be competitive? And I think the answer is, yeah.
I think Dallas will be competitive. The problem for Dallas is their defense is not great this year, and I'm being kind. And their run defense specifically is pretty terrible, and that's what the Ravens do really well. And having Lamar Jackson back, coming off of missing last week, wanting to prove something, and of course this is their season. They need to win these final games. It's a must-win for both teams, but obviously I think that the Ravens will win as well. I think it's going to be a competitive game now. Finally, there are 71 days between the end of the last NBA season and the first game of this season. Last season wrapped up on October 11th, and the new season begins 2 weeks from today. And LeBron was very surprised about the early start to the season.
It was like, wow. And I said, just being completely honest, I wasn't expecting that because early conversations were going on that I was hearing that there would be kind of a mid-January start, and the training camp will kind of start after Christmas.
Look, it's going to be rough on the Heat and the Lakers.
Yeah.
Harder for the Lakers because they have an older team than the Heat.
Yeah.
But it's not ideal for those 2 teams. They were in the bubble the longest. They had really hard playoff games.
Yeah.
And LeBron probably needs more rest. But nothing in life is fair.
That's right.
Even for LeBron James.
You won a title, so that's the good news.
Yes. The good news is you have the title. You did get younger in the offseason. Now, the interesting thing is, the NBA has updated their policy towards sitting players. So according to Chris Haynes, the updated policy prohibits teams from resting healthy players for any high-profile nationally televised game, and violation could result in a fine of at least $100,000.
Yeah.
So they are trying to make an active effort to get rid of load management that affects the fans.
Yeah, it does. I mean, if you're a small town kid like I was, and you can go to one game a year you can afford, you don't want to go in and not have Giannis play. That's Kawhi not play. That's no good.
Now, they are going to be a little more flexible to the teams that are playing back-to-back games, or, say, the Heat and the Lakers, who were in the bubble for the longest and played deep into the playoffs, or resting someone who's coming back from COVID-19, obviously. So it's not that they're going to be ridiculous, but they are going to be paying attention to this and managing and trying to get rid of some of the issues that load management has caused to fans and the networks.
All right, good stuff. Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Lie News.
Big Ten, Michigan, Ohio State officially been canceled due to COVID issues with Michigan. So Michigan and Ohio State has officially been canceled. Where are we now in the whole thing about Ohio State not having enough games? Can they qualify for the playoff now?
As of now, they would need to play one more Big Ten game to make the Big Ten championship. The playoff doesn't really have any rules, because it's a committee. But they would right now not be eligible for the Big Ten title game. The Big Ten could, of course, change that, or just find them another opponent.
Yeah, just find another opponent. That's all you gotta do. Just find Ohio State another opponent.
They have said that they may change the rules, though, which would be the right thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, Ohio State's the best team next. I mean, come on. Michigan's no good this year. Wisconsin's got losses. Northwestern's good, but they're not. Yeah, Indiana's been a great story. Indiana's probably the second best team in the conference right now. Could be.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
Who cares about the last great podcast? iHeartRadio's talent scouts are on the hunt for the freshest, funniest, and most compelling voices out there, but we need your help. The next great podcast competition finalists are now set. We've sifted through thousands of incredible entries submitted on creative platform Tongle. From an investigation into high school basketball scandals.
Something's afoot in amateur basketball. How would something as human as sport escape the claws of racism and capitalism?
To a mother-daughter pair who love to tell outrageous dating stories.
That's more than I needed to know. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate you for being so candid. Okay.
Now we're giving 10 lucky hosts the chance to be crowned the next great podcast and win a show on iHeartRadio. They'll need your support. Listen to the next great podcast finalists now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Then, go to nextgreatpodcast.com to vote for your favorite to help us find the next great podcast.
You know exactly where you were when the Golden State Killer was arrested. You still pay for cable to get Lifetime. You're a moderator on the Zodiac Killer subreddit. You're basically a seasoned detective, and you're in search of a new challenge. Enter Solve, the hit podcast that puts you at the center of the investigation. Each week on Solve, you will untangle a case that has pushed detectives to their limits. Solve is like no other murder mystery podcast. You'll piece together evidence from interrogations, crime scenes, and witness testimony to track down killers hiding in plain sight. Your cases are waiting for you. New episodes of Solve are available now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. One crime, 4 suspects. Can you solve it?
Jalen Hurtz just named the starting quarterback in Philadelphia over Carson Wentz. We'll see how it goes. I don't think they're making the playoffs either way. And Michigan, Ohio State's been canceled. College football this year to me has been one big mulligan. I'm not going to lie. That's how I've watched it. I watched about one game every Saturday. You know, it's a big mulligan. Alabama looks like, once again, they're way ahead of everybody except Clemson. So, Michigan, Ohio State canceled. Big Ten, figure out a way to get Ohio State to the playoff if they go undefeated. Chris Broussard, former New York Times guy, Fox Sports NBA guy, now joining us live. Okay, let's start with this. LeBron said he was offended by Kyrie Irving saying that Kevin Durant's the best closer ever. Shouldn't LeBron be above this, being bothered by this?
You know, Colin, I think LeBron was honest. I think all of us would be bothered. If Joy went to work for another radio show a year from now and said, man, I'm finally with a host that knows what he's talking about. You know, I mean, come on. As great as you are, as successful as you are, you still would be a little hurt by that. Yeah. All right. And now, a lot of us would play it off. and say, oh, look, I've won 3 rings without Kyrie. He hasn't won any without me. I'm not worried at all about what he says. I mean, he thinks the earth is flat. You could have said that, and everybody would have laughed, and oh, LeBron's above that. But I think LeBron was honest, as most of us, all of us would be hurt to some degree. And he did say, I'm hurt a little bit. It hurt me a little bit. Not losing sleep over it, but it hurt him a little bit.
By the way, not to be insecure, but did Joy really say that about me? Oh, anyway, sorry. Okay, so
sorry, Joy. I knew that was in confidence.
Really created a mess here. So James Harden, he has never given us an inclination that he wants to lead. He's just a great player. So when he doesn't lead and he goes AWOL, everybody's like, oh, this is outrageous. And I'm like, he keeps telling you. He doesn't want to lead the franchise. He wants to be the guy with the ball in his hands with a minute and a half to go. Are you surprised? Do you think it's a good move, bad move? What do you make of it?
Well, it's a bad move right now. Look, first of all, he's obviously out there partying at clubs and he's not socially distancing. That is a bad move. He also doesn't have an agent. It's him and his mom doing this. If you're going to try to do this type of power move, remember Anthony Davis had Rich Paul and Clutch doing it for him. You probably need an agent to work this thing out for you. Maybe it wouldn't be as messy as it is. But what he's done is he's engaged in a game of chicken with the Houston Rockets. And if he's willing, we don't know how much he's willing to sit out. Is he willing to sit out all of training camp? Is he willing to sit out most of the season or all of the season? If he does that, it may look bad, it'll look messy, but ultimately he'll gain leverage and get what he wants. But if he can't do that, then he's going to have to come crawling back. I think Houston should be smart about this, Colin. Don't get bullied into trading him yet. It's too early. Kevin Durant would say, it's too soon, bro. It's too soon. There's so much that can happen. Maybe you play well with John Wall and Boogie Cousins, and things look okay for you, and now you want to trade Harden maybe for a veteran or for some young players that can help you win now rather than rebuilding. Maybe Brooklyn doesn't go well, and Kyrie Irving gets hurt. He's injury prone. He gets hurt, and now they're willing to give you more for James Harden. Maybe it goes terrifically in Brooklyn, and they're playing so well that they say, you know what, we don't want to bring Harden in to mess this up. So that gives you leverage with Harden. Maybe Philadelphia, Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons don't play well together under Doc Rivers, and Ben Simmons becomes available at the trade deadline. So if I'm Houston, I've still got leverage because of Harden's contract. Let me sit back and relax until I get exactly what I want in a trade. So that's how they should play this. But if it goes too long, ultimately he's going to start getting more leverage.
Couple of minutes left. KD and Kyrie, give me your prediction how it works.
On paper, they're the best team. And I would love to see a LeBron, KD, AD, Kyrie finals. I mean, that would be tremendous. But Colin, the Nets have got to use the Clippers as a cautionary tale. They're very similar. Remember, the Clippers, before they got Kawhi and Paul George, they were the little engine that could. They were overachievers. They were gritty. They grinded. They played hard for all 48 minutes. Same thing with the Nets. The Nets, Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, Joe Harris, Jared Allen, it was the same exact thing. And if Kyrie and KD will drop into that and not be prima donnas, you're going to get perks because you're the best two players. But don't ask for the super perks. Don't make the division between you and the role players too big, because then you'll ruin the culture and you'll underachieve. That's what happened with the Clippers, with Kawhi and Paul George being prima donnas, and it ruined their season. So KD and Kyrie should look at the Clippers as a cautionary tale. If they do that, they can definitely reach the finals, because in the East, they're the best team on paper.
Chris Broussard, good talking to you, bud. Thanks for stopping by on a Tuesday.
All right, Colin, anytime.
May have ruined a relationship with me and Joy, but that's no biggie. Okay, Jalen Hurtz starting for Philadelphia. He gave him a little spark. Let's see what happens. I think they've got bigger issues. Even if he's the solution short term, they can't fix the problem. Carson Wentz is expensive and not good right now. I don't know what you do. That's the nightmare place to be. That's having an expensive car that always breaks down. Philadelphia, I don't see the sun on the horizon. I don't even see a blip of light. I see bleak. Michigan, Ohio State has been canceled. You know, there's, by and large, golf, NASCAR, baseball, hockey, NBA, NFL have done an unbelievable job with COVID. Unbelievable. I've said this. I would rather have these commissioners than the governors.
Yeah.
They've been way better than the governors in this country. The commissioners have been great. Everybody's freaking out about college football. Folks, this was always going to be ugly. I mean, this was the easiest prediction I made all year. Joy and I are like, college football is going to be choppy. You're on college campuses with 21-year-old boys, not men, boys. Trying to control, and I'm just talking about the non-football players. Forget the young men where there's a little peer pressure that are on the football team. But if you go to anywhere on campus, you're dealing with kids. You know, some are responsible, some mask, some not. Kids kind of feel bulletproof, right? Like, this COVID doesn't hurt me, I don't have to wear a mask.
Also, there's no one overseeing all of these different colleges and bringing everyone together and setting a standard for how this is supposed to be done. So everyone's doing their own thing.
Yeah, so like this is just, let's just get through college football. It's a big mulligan. Let's get through it. People have mostly done a great job. We can blame everybody. It was never designed to be it's like driving a convertible in Alaska in December and going, it doesn't work. Hour 3 next.
Hey everybody, this is Jill Scott, and I am pleased to introduce you to J.Ill, the podcast. I am joined by my amazing, brilliant girlfriends, Laia St. Clair.
What up, though?
And Aja Graydon Dantzler.
Hey, y'all.
We are going to be talking about a lot of amazing things like individuality,
family, and blackness.
Listen when you're on your long drive home. Listen when you're shopping at the grocery store. But listen to J.Ill, the podcast, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
My name is Jamie Loftus, and I'm here to tell you about my new show, Lolita Podcast. Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov is one of the most controversial works of all time, and our culture has done its protagonist a huge disservice over the years. I've spent the last few months getting to the bottom of how America turned this abused young girl into a sex symbol, and what that says about us. New episodes drop weekly on Mondays. Listen to Lolita Podcast on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Get ready to laugh and learn. I'm Nick Smith.
I am Flame Monroe. I am he, she, we. He cash a check, she make the money, we spend it.
Laugh and Learn is a weekly podcast bringing you the latest headlines, keeping you politically informed, mixed in with a little pop culture. You never know what you're going to hear. Subscribe and listen to Laugh and Learn on the iHeartRadio app or Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
I'm Kate Berlin.
I'm Jacqueline Novak.
We're comedians, best friends, and consumerist hogs hemorrhaging cash in the wellness world.
That's why we made a podcast, Poog, with the Big Money Players Network and iHeartRadio.
Though we suffer from no ailments, we are looking to heal.
For us, salvation lies in the next product, practice, or potion.
This is our hobby.
This is our hell.
This is our naked desire for free products. This is Poog. That's P-O-O-G.
Poog.
On the iHeartRadio app,
Apple Podcasts,
or wherever you get your podcasts.
Thanks for listening to the Herd Podcast. Be sure to catch us live every weekday from 12 to 3 Eastern, 9 to noon Pacific on Fox Sports Radio and FS1. Find your local station for the Herd at foxsportsradio.com or stream us live every day on the iHeartRadio app by searching Herd.
You're listening to Fox Sports Radio.
Hi, here we go. Hour 3. Great to have you. We're live in Los Angeles. This is the Herd wherever you may be, however you may be listening. Fox Sports Radio, iHeartRadio, and FS1. By the way, a couple of big breaking stories. Michigan, Ohio State has been canceled, the big game. Some are suggesting on Twitter that Ohio State should just play Texas A&M. I got no problem with it. We all knew college football was going to be a jumbled mess this year. It's it's ridiculous. Like, they don't have a CEO. There's no centralized sort of information hub and governing body for college football. And this is what happens when you don't have it. This is why UFC caught up to boxing. Because UFC had Dana White, and he made, here, you didn't have to like Dana White, but this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're doing, and this is where the fights are at, and this is when they're happening. And boxing had Don King and Bob Arum and a million promoters all with their, all their hands in it trying to govern it. College football needs a CEO, and they don't have one. That's why the NFL's been great with COVID, and the NBA and hockey and baseball, they've all been great with it. They have a centralized figure, a uniform, centralized figure that makes all the big boy decisions. College football, it's every conference for themselves, and it's been a mess, and this is what you get.
It's a multi-billion-dollar business with no one in charge.
Seriously.
What a shock.
It would go wrong when you have a massive pandemic. Yeah. Other thing, Jalen Hurtz, starter in Philadelphia. Howie Long joins me in 5 minutes, so we'll get to that with Howie Long, the Hall of Famer. First of all, big upset last. I don't think it's that big, because I don't think Pittsburgh's that great, but Washington beat the Steelers. Everybody was surprised. But you know what? I just haven't bought into Pittsburgh over the last month. I haven't. And the Pittsburgh Steelers didn't just lose last night. They're now forcing, on a regular basis, Big Ben to throw over 50 times. Not good. The injuries are piling up. Not good. They don't even attempt to run the football, not good. And they struggle to put away average teams. Not good. Last night they finally lost. And there are certain things that I look at, and I just see other things. And I'll give you an example. Remember the movie Invincible, Mark Wahlberg, the bartender? It's a true story. He's a bartender, blue-collar guy, loses his wife, and he tries out for the Philadelphia Eagles. A tryout. He's just a regular dude, and he makes the team for a couple years. But when I watched the movie Invincible, it's a fun sports movie, Greg Kinnear, Mark Wahlberg, what I really see is, it's just Rocky with football. It's a tough Philadelphia guy, not making it, has a big dream, the bartender, Rocky, Sylvester Stallone, and they make it in Philadelphia. I can't watch Invincible without seeing Rocky. It's Rocky with a football. And I'm watching the Pittsburgh Steelers, and you know what they are? They're the Patriots last year. Patriots got off to this 8-0 start. We were like, wow! And all of a sudden, the games got closer, and they were asking more of Brady, and the results weren't good. Big Ben's had a passer rating last 3 games in the 80s, and they were asking more of Brady, and there was a couple of losses, and all of a sudden you look up, and here's what Pittsburgh is. Early in the year, Ben was 103 passer rating, throwing 35, 36 times a game. 7 yards a pass, 22 touchdowns, 4 picks. Weeks 11 through 13, they're the Patriots. I can't unsee it. And then all of a sudden you looked at the Patriots, and they weren't getting blown out at the end, and Pittsburgh won't get blown out. They were losing close games to Houston. They lost a close game to Kansas City. They lost a close game to Miami. And then they got one and done in the playoffs by Tennessee. They are the Patriots last year. This is exactly what New England was. We paid them so much respect because of the brand and the name and Big Ben and Brady and the coach. They're just not dynamic. Look at them. They can't run. They don't want to make Big Ben throw 45, 55 times. That's what they have to do. They're not doing what they want to do. They're doing what they have to do. I mean, just injuries piling up. Think about this. Mike Tomlin eviscerated the Steelers a week ago. Just called them out. Said the word suck. We suck. What did he do that for? To mobilize the forces so the fellas are like, okay, coach is upset. Focus in. No, they were worse the following week. Because this is what they are. They're not a great football team. They're a good football team. 1 week from now, they face Buffalo. They're going to lose, and when they do, they'll no longer be the top seed. Similar last year to New England. Lost that last game to Miami, and they lost the bye. Similar, when Gronk left, New England really struggled in the pass game, despite Brady. And since Le'Veon Bell has left the Steelers, do you know what they are in rushing? 31st 1 year, 29th the next year, and 29th the following year. They're the same team, invincible and rocky with a football. This is the Patriots last year. It's the same thing. We gave them so much credit. Then you look back at the 8-0 Patriots and you're like, well, what were the impressive wins? And you look back at the Steelers and they had 1 or 2, but you're like, it's a bunch of stuff over the Jags and Cowboys. And what am I supposed to be that big win over the Bengals? Last year, Patriots crushed the Jets and Giants. They were both awful. The Bengals this year, not good. Cowboys aren't good. And I'm sorry, but this is what they are. We paid them so much respect for the 8-0 New England start and the 11-0 Pittsburgh start. Watch the games. There's no there. Mike Tomlin after.
We just got to make routine plays routinely. And I say that often, but there's a lot of truth to it. No, I'm just worried about us fluidly moving the football, whether it's run or pass. We move it how we choose to move it. The way that we chose to move it tonight wasn't fluid enough for us to have victory.
One of my favorite guys ever on a microphone, Mike Tomlin. Please, networks, hire him after he retires. And with that, we bring on the Hall of Famer, 3-time All-Pro, a Super Bowl champ, Hall of Famer for 20 years, 13 in the league with the Raiders, all with the Raiders. Howie Long, you still look fantastic. You're losing weight.
Tape and glue. Yeah. That's what it is. That's the secret.
All right, I'm going to throw a couple big breaking news stories at you. One, Jalen Hurtz is starting for the Philadelphia Eagles instead of Wentz. Your reaction is?
To me, it's a bit of a cautionary tale. Being very familiar with Philadelphia, I think Carson Wentz is top 10 talent. That certainly hasn't played out on the field this year for a number of reasons. They've been decimated by injuries.
Yes.
And it's not and it's not just this year, which I think internally makes you want to start to evaluate your process of off-season training.
Thank you.
What you're doing in the gym.
The field.
Yes. And also some of the coaches that have left. Some of the assistant coaches, because the head coach is the offensive coordinator, but the quarterback coach is the guy that he's the quarterback whisperer on a daily basis, and they've lost some of that. And then you go ahead. I have no problem in Green Bay when you draft a project quarterback for a 37-year-old quarterback in Green Bay. Now, I had a problem with them drafting the running back as high as they did. I think they could have linebacker, wide receiver, whatever. But to draft a quarterback that high, what kind of message is that sending to your 26-year-old quarterback?
Well, you've used this before. Everybody says he's just got to get over it. But as you've told me years ago, you can't have two Hall of Fame quarterbacks in the same room. One sucks all the oxygen out. It's the only position in sports you don't compete against somebody. So that's the reality of NFL quarterback. You draft a quarterback right behind him when they're young and struggling. It's going to be different for them.
And now you have the reality of you've made the move to take him off the field in the middle of a game and put in the young guy. How do you go back? How do you patch this up? How do you move forward next year? And, I'm a big fan of the head coach. I'm a big fan of the front office. I will tell you this. They can't do anything really because of the dead money.
They're trapped.
For the next year. They're trapped. That being said, if this is the guy they really want to go with and they want to move on and they've lost interest in the starting quarterback, I know two teams right off the top of my head that would love to have Carson Wentz.
Name them.
Indianapolis Colts.
Yep.
You know why?
Yeah,
head coach.
Yeah.
And it's the perfect city for him. He's a North Dakota guy. Philadelphia, and I went to school there. Philly's rough.
It is.
It's rough, and it's hard on their athletes, and they brought a championship to that city, and he was a big part of that, although he got injured in the game that we covered out here in L.A., and, stays in the game for 2 plays. I love his toughness. I love his athletic ability. He can be a bit stubborn. He's not seeing the field for whatever reason. He's not seeing the field the way he has in the past. So they have some decisions to make. I think Doug is a very competent coach. He brought a championship to that city. The GM and Howie Roseman, I think they're going to buy some time with that. I think you just write this year off as...
That's right.
Yeah, like Dallas just got decimated.
Just write the year off. It happens. They've won 9 division titles in 20 years. It's a good organization. Yep. So, it's interesting. Last year, the Raiders surprised us early and then looked fatigued late and kind of fell apart. This year, I was all into them. And then, forget the win over the Jets. And I just was kind of sitting there the other day watching them against the Jets, and I'm like, I feel like last year. I don't know if it's Gruden's style, it's the running attack, it's very old school football. But the Raiders do not look this morning like they did 4 weeks ago. Am I overreacting to that?
I think, the question is, were you overreacting 4 weeks ago? I think there's no question in my mind that the defense has to get better.
It's a limited defense at this point.
It's a very limited defense at this point. Their first-round pick from last year stepped up and played really well versus the Jets. There was no Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs is and people might not realize this,
Waller's uncoverable.
You know, Tony and I talk about it. Waller's, and of course, Tony's one of the old guys on the lawn. Get off my lawn, you know, where they don't touch the tight ends nowadays. But he's great. You know, with the qualifier that you don't touch the tight ends, he's great. I think the quarterback making that kind of a throw at the end of the game in that situation can have a carryover. I think you get Josh Jacobs back in the game. They get their right tackle back, who is like a wave hitting the beach.
Yeah, that's Trent Brown. Trent Brown.
He's like a wave hitting the beach in the run game. I mean, he's 6'8", 390.
Yeah.
You know, try stopping that. So that really sets your entire team up. And when you're running the football successfully, you've got the play action pass, it keeps your defense off the field. That was the struggle, I think, in the past couple of weeks.
All right, that's fair enough. That's a good point. Trent Brown is the biggest NFL player, by the way. He is officially the biggest NFL player.
He's big.
Yeah. So you can win. You know, there's a lot of Nick Saban always calls it inner scoreboard, outer scoreboard. That Warren Buffett talks about. A lot of guys chatter. What do you feel inside? So Cleveland's 9-3. But do they believe they got blown out by the Steelers? They got manhandled by the Ravens. You weren't on a lot of bad teams, but when you're in a losing culture and you have a good year, do you believe this morning Cleveland thinks they can match up with Pittsburgh and run the ball and beat them?
Well, at some point, you know, that has to happen for them to take the next step. And prior to this past weekend, you know, we said this is a litmus test game
for Baker, the franchise,
for Baker,
everybody.
The franchise, and I said on the show, Tennessee's a tough football team.
Yeah,
they're a reflection of their head coach. The running back is out of this world. But when you score that many points early, you take that running back out of the game.
That's right.
And if Tennessee has a weakness, it's their lack of pass rush and their lack of coverage, particularly on third down.
Yeah.
And the question I had on our show Sunday was, can Baker make big throws in key situations to take advantage of that? And he did.
Yep.
Now the next step is you've been getting your lunch money taken by Pittsburgh and Baltimore for years.
So
and
we're
talking 18 years since this team's been in the playoffs. And Cleveland, I think, as a city and as a fan base, is kind of, you know, they're kind of Eeyore. They're whatever can go wrong is going to go wrong.
I totally get it.
And you've got to buy in. Baker's not a runaround guy.
Thank you.
You know, he's not that, and I think he's frenetic when he does that, and that's not who he is. I think he's a rhythm thrower. The play action pass, the run game, their offensive line. If you take the time to watch them,
their O-line's great.
Hey, in the run game and the pass game, and they're built for the long haul. So you get a couple more pieces, and you know your defense, which is fairly good, and I think when you're running the football, your defense always benefits.
Yeah, I'm beloved in Cleveland. You may not know that.
Are you?
Well, people talk
You're
about
beloved
me.
in Virginia too. My wife hated you because you badmouthed UVA so much.
Well, but now it's turned.
Just because they could spell.
Yeah. You know, some people like me. Same way at home, pal. I'll tell you that when I go home. Sometimes she loves me, sometimes they don't. Here, Seattle. And Pete's a little flaky, but I love him. And,
me too.
And I watched him last week, and I'm like, oh boy, I don't know. Last week, I swear to God, I thought they solved their pass rush with Dunlap, and L.J. Collier's a young player. Tell me how it's going to end for Seattle this year. What do you see? Because it's like a baseball team with a bad bullpen. When your O-line can get pushed around, you got a ceiling. What is Seattle, and how is it going to end?
Well, the defense was historically bad for a long period of time.
It was, 2 months.
The run game without Carson, which I think really is, I think Seattle's better. I think Russ is better. I think the defense is better. I'm big on the run game.
Especially with Pete's teams.
Yes.
Even in college.
And Carson is, to me, an identity changer there, and it benefits Russell a lot. There are times when Russell has had the entire football team on his shoulders, and he pressed too hard and threw interceptions and turned the football over, and getting Carson back in some form. I think this past week they ran into an extremely well-coached, extremely complex defense post-snap. And that forced Russell, who's one of the smartest quarterbacks in the league, to pause and make poor decisions, and they just couldn't get in a rhythm. Judge has done a really good job with the Giants. And it's what you'd expect. I mean, in the past years, we've seen coaches come from New England and not be successful. These young coaches that are coming out of New England right now, you look at Vrabel, you look at Flores down in Miami, and you look at this guy with the Giants. They've taken it. It's the equivalent of taking that postgraduate course at Harvard that some of the players in the league go and sit in on for a summer. That's what coaching in New England is like.
So you went to Villa. You were a tough guy. You had I don't know if it was a tough childhood, but you're a tough guy. But what's interesting, your kids didn't have the same life as you did. Your kids grew up, but you guys had some money, but you were a tough kid. When you were at Villanova, obviously that's a smart guy school. So I look at you and your tough upbringing, and take me back to Howie Long at 20 years old. Because everybody looks at you, the glasses. My wife's always like, God, he looks great. He's so smart. It's like his wife's an attorney. His kids are brilliant. What were you like at 20?
Well, I got there. It was one of those situations where I'd lived with a number of different relatives. I had gone from house to house, and I was fortunate that I had an extended family that was.
But you were a tough guy. You got fights.
I wasn't a tough guy till it was kind of like Kyle. My Kyle is a lot like me in that sense, where I didn't figure it out till I was about 14 or 15, and I said, wait a second, I don't have to take crap from anybody.
Yeah.
And I never played organized sports.
Ever.
And moved out. Crazy? We had the segregation in Boston, and we had the busing riots.
Yeah.
My grandmother, who I was living with at the time, asked my Uncle Billy, who had 2 kids and 2 adopted kids, to take me in. He working in the projects in South Boston. And how he took me in, the older I get, the more I really appreciate it.
So where'd you go to school?
I went to school at a high school called Milford High School, and the coach sees me walking down the hallway and says, who are you? And I'm a 13-year-old, 6'3", 190-pound kid. And I said, I'll come out. I had to figure out how to put the equipment on and do all that.
And were you good instantly?
No, I was terrible.
So so Villanova gave you a scholarship, so you did
probably my senior year. I had played with a guy named Joe Restick, who ended up going on the captaining Notre Dame. When you see the movie Rudy and he's checking down the list, Joe Restick's name's on the list.
Yeah.
And his dad was the coach at Harvard, and he was on the selection committee for an all-star game that's no longer in existence called the Blue-Gray game down in Alabama.
Oh, I remember. I watched it for 30 years.
Right, it's on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
So I get a call, some player gets hurt, and I get a call.
You played in the Blue-Gray game.
So here's the real irony of it. So I get a call, and I go down there on a Monday, and I said, sure, I'll come down. If a player gets hurt, I'll come down. And I had never played. I think we played on TV once. And the coach of the North team was Jimmy Johnson.
No way.
Yes.
At Oklahoma State?
At Oklahoma State.
You got to be kidding me.
And I win the MVP. And when you go to a big school, you have one pro day, and all the teams come in.
That's right.
I ran on the front lawn of my dorm. I ran 35 times. I mean, we didn't have an indoor gym that was big enough to run a 40. And on rainy, snowy days, when I remember Pittsburgh came in, and I really wanted to go to Pittsburgh. I started in the hallway, caddy corner, and had to run across the gym, Jake Nevin gym, right down to where Rolly Massimino's office was, and run into the wall because there wasn't enough room to stop you after the 40 yards.
Okay, what was Jimmy Johnson like? We got 2 minutes. What was Jimmy Johnson?
Exactly how he is now.
The same hair and everything?
Yeah, same hair, a little bit thinner. He was funny because he gave me. I thought it was, going to Villanova. He gave me $7 to get a pizza, and I thought that was kind of a junior varsity payoff or something. When in reality, he wanted a pizza. He said he's still waiting for the pizza or the $7.
Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
God, that's an incredible.
We go way back.
That is amazing.
He's the best. Having that guy sit next to you on a set, he's the greatest coach builder, I think, of a football team.
So when I started doing this Sunday show, which is I got to get up, I don't want to get up at 5 in the morning again.
Sure.
I'm on life, right? So I do it, but the reason I do it, well, Carissa Thompson's a friend for a long time, but I come in, and Jimmy Johnson I used to hound him for 15 minutes. I just ask him questions about life and football.
Well,
he knows everybody.
Yeah, and we've talked, my boys started out, when I started out here, my boys were 9, 6, and 5, or 9, 5, and 4. And 2 of them ended up playing in the NFL, and, there were contract situations where the guy I call was Jimmy, and, Jimmy gave me sage advice, and, the Dak situation to me was kind of a microcosm of that, bird in the hand, I want 4 years, they want 5.
Right.
And my question is always, what's the difference in your life? And Marvin Demoff, who was both of my boys' agent, who I think is one of the smartest people I've ever been in a room with, Marvin Demoff would say he'd draw you up a kind of a schedule in your money portfolio.
Right.
If you get this much money at 65 years old, you've got $80 million in the bank.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to hold out, you want to take a risk for a year to get 87, what's the difference in your life with 87 in the bank versus 80? Not a lot.
I say this all the time. Last night I had sushi, cigars, a cocktail in the NFL.
You're happy.
Happy?
I told you when you came here, this is the best place to work. Remember?
Most days.
Yep.
Sometimes you get a little pushback from the guys upstairs, but most days. You gotta push those guys around once in a while.
We don't really talk to upstairs that much.
You know what? And we're better for it. Good seeing you.
Wow.
I kid because I care. All right. Howie Long, Hall of Famer. You're only the second guest we've had in 7 months on a chair.
Yeah, it's great. I was out here doing something for Ford and went out and surprised a fan from the Raiders.
Oh, you did?
A fan program.
Oh, God, that stuff's great.
It was really, really... I wasn't sure how it would go, but the guy he just about had a heart attack.
I love stuff
so
like that.
I'm not going to tell you who it is, but, it was a lot of fun.
Good seeing you, man.
Good seeing you. Good seeing you, Joy.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Fox Sports Radio, FS1, and the iHeartRadio app.
I'm Eleanor Wells, host of the new podcast About a Girl, and I want to tell you some stories. David Bowie, Freddie Mercury, Paul McCartney, Bob Marley, Jim Morrison. You probably know these names, but this is not really about them. This is about the women behind the legends, the ones who inspired, loved, supported, and challenged these icons on their way to greatness. Women like Angie Bowie, Mary Austin, Jane Asher, Rita Marley, and Pam Curson. Each episode, I'll give voice to one of these women who have remained muted in the shadows for far too long. These are incredible, influential women, without whom the landscape of popular music might be very different. About a Girl is executive produced by Jake Brennan of Disgraceland, The 27 Club, and Blood on the Tracks. Subscribe now on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
I'm Kate Berlant. I'm Jacqueline Novak. We're comedians, best friends, and consumerist hogs hemorrhaging cash in the wellness world.
That's why we made a podcast, Poog, a quixotic quest for wholeness. Here's a little snippet of us trying out a top-dollar massage gun on our muscle manipulation episode. Press on once. Now press the up dot.
Oh, damn, bitch. 2100.
Now, I want you to notice...
Whoa.
Do you want to know the story of the guy who created this device?
No.
No? You're the rudest person.
I'm so rude. I'm here with this free product.
They say float it.
Ow, ow, ow.
And then
ow.
go deep.
Ow, the right inner thigh has pain. I repeat, the right inner thigh has pain.
You float it in. You float it in.
Whoa, the tension in the calves is reaching an all-time high. Though we suffer from no ailments, we are looking to heal.
For us, salvation lies in the next product, practice, or potion.
This is our hobby.
This is our hell.
This is our naked desire for free products. This is Poog. That's P-O-O-G. Poog on the iHeartRadio app,
Apple Podcasts,
or wherever you get your podcasts.
Discovery Plus streaming service starts next year, U.S. only. Discovery Plus, exclusive originals and real-life entertainment from some of your favorite brands. Also, one scoop every morning, mdrivestart.com, chocolate mousse protein shake, lean muscle recovery, very good stuff. Don't let age define you, mdrivestart.com. Joy Taylor with the news.
Turn on the news. This is the Herdline News.
Just a quick update, Woj. tweeted that James Harden has arrived in Houston and tested, according to the NBA protocol today.
Tested for COVID.
Yes, he took his test at the Toyota Center.
All right.
So he is in Houston. All right. So ESPN released their rankings for the best NBA players for 2020-21 season, and Tyler Hero was ranked 59.
Was that good or bad according to Twitter?
I don't know what Twitter's saying. I feel like this is an appropriate space. I actually feel like it's I don't want to say high, but it feels...
I think he's low.
Yeah, like I feel like this is a good space for him.
If he was available on the market, would you take him or Lonzo Ball? Give me a break. You take Tyler Hero in 1 second, he can shoot.
I would take him over Lonzo Ball,
I wouldn't even... I mean, nothing against Goran Dragic. If they're both on the market, one is free and can shoot threes. The other's expensive and has a history of getting hurt.
Tyler Hero was a rookie.
Yeah, Tyler Hero at 59. Your value is ultimately exposed or unveiled on the market. Everybody wants Tyler Hero. Cheap, can hit a three, coachable.
Plays completely fearless.
Thank you. That's a great point. And was, for a rookie, was huge in big spots.
He started 8 of 55 games played, shot 43% from the field, 39% from three-point, and averaged 13.5 points per game, 4.1 rebounds, and 2.2 assists.
Tell me a team in the NBA wouldn't take him today. On the market, I can tell you a bunch that wouldn't take Zach LaVine. I can tell you a bunch that wouldn't take Lonzo Ball. I can't tell you one who wouldn't take Tyler Hero.
He did outrank Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Dennis Schroeder.
That one's, I'm not sure I love that one.
They ranked 77th and 79th, and DeMar DeRozan, it was ranked 82nd. That feels really low for DeRozan.
Everybody in the league is looking for that. Everybody wants that.
I'm very excited for the Heat next year. I know the Lakers are all complaining because they don't have a lot of time in between seasons. I don't hear any complaining from the Heat, but that's another story.
It's world champion problems.
Yeah. I mean, look, like it's COVID. They're figuring it all out.
Yeah.
Like it's fine. The Heat and the Lakers are going to be up against it as far as how long they've had off. But the East is going to be really interesting. Like I think Brooklyn is an incredible story, and I really can't wait for the NBA season to start again. So the New York Jets fired defensive coordinator Greg Williams on Monday, and Adam Gase said that the decision to fire Williams after the Raiders, he said that he made the decision to fire him after Sunday's game.
It was the best thing for our team moving forward, organizationally. We had a discussion this morning, and we felt like that was the best move for us to make. Greg and myself talked for close to an hour this morning. Obviously, he wasn't happy. I mean, like most of us are when this happens, but that's our profession.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, listen, Adam's going to be gone in a month, so I still contend they're keeping Adam around because in the end, they feel less likely to win a game and more likely to retain the number one spot with him.
I don't think anyone believes, including Adam Gase, that he's going to be there after this season is over. It's a disaster. They're 0-12, fourth in the AFC East. Yeah. Their final games are the Seahawks, Rams, Browns, and Patriots.
Oh, so, good luck. Good Lord.
I don't see a win in their future anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. I think that because we've seen this before with Greg Williams. So I think that they don't want to they didn't want to make the move to fire Gase during the season, switch to Greg Williams or another coordinator, and the Jets mess up and win a couple games. You can get a little momentum when you have an interim coach. We've seen it around the league, and you see it all the time. And then, there starts to be conversation if they should stay there, but I don't think that that's the case. I think they just want to finish off the season with no wins, make sure you lock up Trevor Lawrence. Greg Williams was going to likely be gone anyway because the new coach is going to bring in their guys. And I don't think that Greg Williams is a bad defensive coordinator. I think he's going to end up somewhere else in the league. Adam Gase, I'm not so sure because he's had 2 stints. I think this is the end of his head coaching career.
He's done. Yeah, he's done.
So Anthony Lynn will remain the Chargers coach, at least for now. Ian Rappaport of NFL Network said Monday that no head coaching change is imminent. The organization has a tremendous amount of respect for Lynn and would prefer to evaluate everything at the end of the season.
Yeah.
I also agree with this. I don't think it makes... I'm not a huge fan of firing coaches mid-season unless it's a toxic situation or you're positive that you're going to get ahead of the game hiring some massive college coach that is going to start looking at his opportunities.
Well, people have a lot of respect for Anthony, and the team plays hard. hard. Now, last week was man overboard, but until last week, they played hard and were in all their games.
Yeah, I mean, things have fallen apart this year. Again, this is a COVID year. It's not his first year coaching there, obviously, but this is a COVID year, so things could be affected in that way. He does have a rookie quarterback who's playing well, but they're not winning. So there's some factor to it. He's been coaching for 20 years. I'm not sure who is the right fit for this team, though. Like, some of the names that are out there are Jack Del Rio. I don't love that. Joe Brady, Eric Bieniemy.
Joe Brady's interesting.
Josh McDaniels and Robert Saleh. But don't you say you want a head coach to come in here?
Yeah, I would. I think I'll say it again. Brian Kelly, Notre Dame, Urban Meyer. They don't get a phone call? I'm sorry, they've won everywhere. And both of them turn stuff around like in 15 games. I don't get it.
Brian Kelly wants this job.
I don't know. Who wouldn't want this job?
I mean, Brian Kelly's at Notre Dame. He could be there forever.
Exactly.
I mean, maybe he wants to.
They have like one golf course. I mean,
it's very cold there.
All right, Joey with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
Alan Lazard, Aaron Rodgers' second favorite wide receiver to throw to. He's going to be joining us next.
Be sure to catch live editions of The Herd weekdays at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific.
Get ready to laugh and learn. I'm Nick Smith.
I am Flamin' Road. I am he, she, we. He cash a check, she make the money, we spend it.
Laugh and Learn is a weekly podcast bringing you the latest headlines.
The infighting within the LGBT community is ridiculous. Baby, let me tell you about that rainbow in the front. Check the back of it. Potholes, thunderstorms, gunshots, all that.
Keeping you politically informed.
Because that's what we do. We wait until the presidency, but we don't think about all the steps that it takes to get to the presidency, which is congressmen and senators and judges and people to put in place to think like us and look like us.
Mixed in with a little pop culture.
They ain't went to no Ice Cube. Understand, Ice Cube ain't even got that much juice. He ain't got that much power. This ain't Bad Boys in the Hood. He ain't Dope Boy.
You never know what you're gonna hear.
Don't I look like Beyonce Mama? Don't I look like Beyonce Mama?
Subscribe and listen to Laugh and Learn on the iHeartRadio app or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Street Politicians is a show for the people. I am Tamika D. Mallory, the one who is always right.
And I'm my son, the one who is never wrong.
And catch us every Wednesday on the Black Effect Network, breaking down social and civil rights issues, pop culture, and politics in hopes of pushing our culture forward to make the world a better place for generations to come. But that's not all. We will also have special guests to add their thoughts on the topics, as well as break down different political issues with local activists in their community.
We might not always agree, we might not always be right, we're not going to always be wrong, but we're going to always be up there.
If you like to be informed and to expand your thoughts, then listen to Street Politicians on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
That's right.
Michelin Endurance XT Silicone Wiper Blades, real world proven. Walmart's where you get them, last 2 times longer than other blades. They tested them. Alaska to Argentina, they're good. So Alan Lazard's interesting. So he was a big recruit, like 4 or 5-star recruit guy. And everybody wanted him. Notre Dame wanted him. Stanford wanted him. So you know he's a smart guy. And he chose Iowa State. And then he goes from Ames, Iowa, and he ends up in Green Bay. He didn't exactly hit the lottery in the nightlife for a single guy. So we're going to bring him on. Alan Lazard, who is now with Devontae Adams creating a massive tandem, which is very difficult to defend. And he is joining us now live. So I want to just start with the obvious question. Iowa State, nothing against the Cyclones. Notre Dame wanted you, Stanford wanted you, and you chose Iowa State. All these people were coveting you. Why Iowa State?
Well, really the big reason why I chose Iowa State is when I came down to it. I had those other offers and everything, but when I closed my eyes and I pictured myself playing in a collegiate uniform, I only saw myself in the Cardinal and gold. So that's how I really truly knew that Iowa State was a place for me to be. And ultimately, I knew what my end goal was, which was to come to the NFL and make an impact and leave some history here. So where I went to collegiately really didn't matter. It was just part of the journey and was just going to be part of the process.
Has it made it easier going from small town Ames to Green Bay? Because for a lot of guys, if you grew up in the big city, it would be culture shock to be in Green Bay. But you go small town to small town. Do you ever think, in a weird way, it actually has made it easier for you?
Absolutely. I tell people all the time, Green Bay is a glorified Ames, Iowa. Ames, it's the culture, the community, the surroundings, the fan base is unbelievable, and you really can't beat it. But the only thing that's really missing is the championships and, the trophies there. You come here to Green Bay, you see so much history, you see the Lombardi trophies, you see the retired numbers, you see the winning success that they've had here. And besides that, I really see a lot of similar things.
So you went undrafted and you end up with Aaron Rodgers. So you weren't a first or a second round pick. People overlooked you, and you end up with this all-time world-class Hall of Fame talent. Did you feel like, Aaron Rodgers, we got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 receivers in camp. Did you feel like you had to earn his respect when you first showed up in Green Bay?
Absolutely. That was my first goal when I first arrived in Green Bay, was to let the players there and ultimately the coaches and front office know that, I meant business and I was serious about working, and I want to do whatever I could to help the team win. So as soon as I stepped foot inside Lambeau, and I just kind of put my head down, kept quiet, and did whatever I can to stand out.
Aaron Rodgers, I was just watching that picture. He's like a dad. He's wiping the stuff off your brow there, taking care. You guys seemed to, he had made a public comment a couple years ago, very early in your career, that he was into your style. Why do you think he trusted you? He doesn't trust a lot of young receivers. Aaron he can be hard on guys. He's very demanding. Why did he trust you early?
I think Aaron just demands so high of himself, and he sees that in me as well. And, he knows that I'll go out there and I'll do whatever it takes to win. And no matter what it takes, I'm going to lay it out there on the line, and that he can go out there and trust me. And ultimately, I'm going to help him make plays.
Yeah. You're 6'5" guy. I'm watching your tape. You're tall. Most people, if they could play basketball or football, Charles Barkley always says, I played football for one day, I got tackled, and I chose basketball. You could have played basketball at a very high level. Why did you choose football over hoops?
Ultimately, I think it wasn't the commitment I had at the time back in high school. My coach, Brad Bjorken, who's my high school coach, was a huge part of my success football-wise, because he's taught me so much basketball on how to play the game. So I have a lot to give the credit to him. But ultimately, I think once I kind of realized and sat down and looked at the offers and everything, I knew I could go out and do a lot more damage on football than I could basketball.
So without giving away any secrets, Aaron's a very smart guy. You're a smart guy because you got offered Stanford and Notre Dame, so I know you're a smart guy. And when Aaron's at the line, and do you guys ever have nonverbal communication, looks? Because Aaron, it's a big cat and mouse game, Alan, as you know. You got guys looking at you. Like, are there little tricks week to week Aaron does with you, nonverbal stuff?
Absolutely. I think that's what Aaron does better than anyone else, is communication. Whether it's player to player or player to coach, I think he does a really good job of leading the offense in our team. So when he's doing his cadences, when he's giving you that look at the line, and you know he's going to come to you, he's going to give you that certain Hollywood look that, you better get on your horse and get going. So he's just done a great job of communicating to me and everyone else, and just really being the leader and orchestrator of our offense.
When you got there, so you got there 28, you've been there, 2 years or 3?
2 years.
Okay. So, you knew who Aaron Rodgers was. You'd watched football on television. And you played with good players. You in college. But was there a practice early with Aaron Rodgers, and you were like, oh, brother, this guy's arm? Like, what was the first moment that you realized, like, Aaron's just different than other quarterbacks?
Yeah, so I'll give you 2 examples. One would be the first experience I had. He actually threw me, my first pass was one-on-one in camp last year. It was actually the same route that I had, caught the 31-yarder versus the Eagles this past weekend. He just threw a nice little teddy bear out there for me, and it just fit right perfectly in stride, and I was able to peel away from the DB and score. And then go back to last Sunday, and you see him throw that bomb to Marquez. He throws it from the 26-yard line all the way down to, I believe, the opposite side of the field, 14 or so. So for him to still be able to do that, there's always days, every single day, he kind of wows me and really impresses everyone.
So you guys in Green Bay were 13-3 last year. You're very good. Now the downside to being great is the standards in Green Bay are very high. Are there times now Now you're one of his guys. You and Devontae, you're one of his guys. Does Aaron have to occasionally bark at you? Are there times? Because now you're no longer a kid. Like, he needs you. When's the last time Aaron had to bark at you? When you broke off a route the wrong way?
Yeah, I think Aaron, he definitely gets on my case every once in a while. Obviously, only being my second year playing with him, it's not to the same level of communication and chemistry that him and Devontae have. So every day when I'm watching them, those two guys work, especially this past Sunday, just watching them go after it. I'm picking up little things here and there, but he definitely, with his standard, I think that's just what makes him so great is that he realizes that in myself I have such a high standard that my standard's so high that I don't want to let him down. So I'm going to do whatever it takes and then some more to make sure that I do my job.
By the way, Matt LaFleur's very, very young. Last year, rookie year, second year. Do you notice a difference from Matt LaFleur last year to this year? Does he carry himself different? Does the locker room buy into it? What's the difference Matt LaFleur last year to this year?
Absolutely. I've seen a huge change in Coach LaFleur this year. He's just coming into his own, getting comfortable. And like I said, Aaron's just such a great communicator. And him and developing that relationship with Coach LaFleur, and it's just spread throughout the entire building. And you see the energy, and you see how much fun that we're having. And, I think it's just it's really great with the connection that they have together.
Finally, it's Tuesday night. You live in Green Bay. You're single. What will you do tonight? What will you do tonight?
See, Mondays and Tuesdays are my weekends, so there's completely relaxation. Turn off the TV, just kind of hanging out, vibing, focusing on myself and my thoughts, get prepared for the week, and then, once Wednesday hits, then this work week starts and it's time to get to business.
Man, that sounds really grown up. That's incredibly mature. I think you'd be out tonight swinging, having fun, and you just gonna be listening to music and chilling?
Yeah, a lot of Wiz Khalifa, a lot of Larry June, Five. Definitely. Some good music tonight.
How about that, Joy? I've heard of all those.
It's also COVID.
Oh, yeah, the COVID thing. Yeah, what a downer. All right, Alan Lazard. Great having you on, man. Continued success to you and Devontae and the guys.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You bet. Yeah, the COVID thing, you got to chill a lot.
Yeah, this is, I don't know what the nightlife in Green Bay is on Mondays and Tuesdays usually, but...
It's one of the only professional cities I've never been to. I've been to Memphis.
I haven't either, yeah.
I haven't been to Green Bay. Apparently, there's only like 250,000. I think it's the smallest town in the country that has a pro team, obviously.
I went to Wisconsin for the U.S. Open.
Yeah, I've been there. The golf course.
What is it called?
Yeah. I've been to Wisconsin. I've been to Madison like 3 times. Big party school. Yeah, my stepdaughter wants to go. I'm like, slow down. Like, big party school.
Well, you gotta have something to do.
Yeah. There's a lot to do there. Most involves draft beer. By the way, streaming service coming in 2021, coming soon. It's called Discovery Plus. All the shows you love from your favorite brands like Food Network, HTV, Discovery Channel, and exclusive originals. So there we are. If you did not see our herd hierarchy, you want to do this here, Alex, or you want to speak for yourself? All right, we'll do it after the break. So, I got, last night I went on Instagram.
You did?
I did, and I was feeling myself, and I took I don't think I took a shot. I said I was demanding an apology from Steeler fans who have been so hostile toward me. And it is, I think it may be, the most downloaded thing I've ever done. All I said was, you owe me an apology.
Let me see how many views you have right now.
Twitter, I have 500,000, just for a 30-second...
Well, listen, maybe my pettiness has rubbed off on you. You have over 100,000 views.
I have.
And 2,000 comments. What is that cocktail? Looks yummy.
It was a Tito's club soda splash of fresh organic OJ. Yeah. I'm not
like
gonna lie
a
to you.
screwdriver?
I had more than one. I had promised one. I went a little crazy last night. All right, we'll see you tomorrow, The Herd.
I created the podcast Prodigy to find the answer to a question. Can genius be created? Many believe it can, because it's happened before. Was it a coincidence, or is it repeatable? In pursuit of the answer, I interviewed brilliant academics, social scientists, groundbreaking researchers, and the prodigies themselves to gain a better understanding of intelligence, skill acquisition, expert performance, and genetics. Disregard all simple explanations, because complex questions require complex answers. My name is Lowell Berlanti, and I'm seeking the answer to a very complicated question. What is the nature of our intelligence? Listen to Prodigy every Thursday on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We are back and black on the Black Effect Network. Hey y'all, it's Tamika D. Mallory and Myson the General.
That's me.
And Street Politicians is the podcast for the culture. We will be breaking down social and civil rights issues, pop culture, and politics on our podcast every Wednesday. We will have special guests as well with local activists to join the show discussing political issues going on in their community. Listen to Street Politicians on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
That's right.